Chapter 1640. If that was the case, that old man would probably have a headache. Lu Jie was unable to defeat Xiaoqing. This made many Radiance 100 sequence members, who were prepared to watch the show, feel rather regretful. However, this was just a small episode. This was because every subsequent battle caused the Radiance 100 sequences ranking to change. Basically, everyone who started a battle would be fighting against a target that they could restrain. Brave Lion Leo, who was originally ranked 7th, fought to 4th. He defeated Liang, who was originally ranked 4th. White Devil Daisy was a healing-type spirit chi professional, but from the original 18th position, it was pushed to 16th. Wang Fan's girlfriend, Unknown Flame Anna. He dropped from the 57th place to the 59th place. She sat next to Wang Fan with a depressed face. Wang Fan comforted her for a long time. Wang Fan dropped from his original position of 63 to 46. But in the end, he was targeted and fell to 55th. Compared to Wang Fan and Anna, things were not going well for him. Baihao's challenges were much smoother. He went from 87th all the way to 52nd. When he was challenged again, Baihao used a quick way to end the battle. He unleashed his strongest attack without the slightest hesitation. He had instantly killed the spirit chi professionals who had challenged him. This allowed Baihao to stabilize his position at 52nd. If Lu Jie was the biggest dark horse, the second biggest dark horse would definitely be Zhao Xiaoqun. Zhao Xiaoqun revealed the trump card that she had been hiding all this time. Source-type life form Gluttony Sandworm. From the original 21st position, he fought his way up to the 9th position. Shi Su, who was ranked 6th, maintained his original position. Raging Fang Duo went from 43rd to 46th, basically the same as before. This Radiance 100 sequence shuffle could be said to have exceeded many people's expectations. Now the 11 people who were scheduled to be reassessed were ready. They were ready to defeat the newcomers in the assessment and fight again. Lu Wencheng, who was ranked 100th in the sequence, finished his challenge. He coughed lightly and said, "Sit according to the new order in tomorrow's 100 sequence assessment ceremony. For tomorrow's 100 sequence assessment ceremony, all of you will be seated according to your new positions." After speaking, Lu Wencheng left Star Web. He was ready to report the results. Then, it would be the last King's Court assembly before the 100 sequence. It had just rained from the sun. Next to the Radiant Sacred Hall, Ling Yuan was in the 100 Seedlings Tower. He originally wanted to enter the Spirit Lock spatial zone to enhance some phase. Unexpectedly, she received a call from Gao Feng. "Ling Yuan, where are you?" "I'm on the 8th floor of the 100 Seeds Tower. I've just finished chatting with the City Lord of Wind Mist City. I'll go and find you now." The top force that Gao Feng belonged to was rooted in Wind Mist City. In addition, Gao Feng had become Cicada Cry's disciple. It was normal for the City Lord of Wind Mist City to talk to Gao Feng. Even the city lords of other big cities would want to talk to Gao Feng. After all, Gao Feng's master was His Majesty Cicada Cry. What about the #1 leader of all the major cities? Since Gao Feng wanted to look for him, Ling Yuan naturally wouldn't refuse. Today could be said to be the last day of leisure before the 100 sequence. Ling Yuan revealed his building and room number. "I'm at the 13th floor of the 100 Seeds Tower, 226 on the 2nd floor." Previously, when Ling Yuan knew that Gao Feng was going to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence selection, he originally wanted to bring Gao Feng along. But now Gao Feng obviously didn't need him to bring him along. Gao Feng's Breeze Hibiscus, Spirit Spring Lily, and Yellow Spring Lily, their strength had reached the Diamond X/Fantasy V level. In the Radiance 100 sequence selection, only the eliminated Radiance 100 sequence members would have Diamond phase. Even if the Breeze Hibiscus wasn't adept at combat, its grade was still there. The violent wind that it set off wasn't something an ordinary Fae could handle. Soon, someone knocked on Lin Yuan's door. As soon as Lin Yuan opened the door, Gao Feng walked in. With a sad face, he said to Lin Yuan, "Lin Yuan, you have to help me. Lin Yuan, you have to help me. I heard from an he that the entire assessment will open 20-dimensional rifts within 3 days. It's equivalent to a battle for survival. Spirit Chi professionals are allowed to form teams. I can defeat ordinary opponents. But how can I be a match for an exotic beast tide? Gao Feng now understood the use of his sacred source life form, the memory-eating 8 music box. It was obvious that he was the best fighting force against the Freedom Federation's envoys. Therefore, Gao Feng was afraid that he had bad luck. He would be eliminated by the exotic beast tide before encountering Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan thought for a moment. Then his eyes lit up. He took out an ethereal jellyfish tentacle and handed it to Gao Feng. After entering the star web, if one brought along a diamond face storage box, the items in the diamond face storage box would also be scanned. As a 3-day battle for survival, food and water would definitely be allowed. Gao Feng only needed to bring the ethereal jellyfish tentacle. Lin Yuan would be able to roughly sense Gao Feng's location. He would then take the initiative to look for Gao Feng. During yesterday's conversation, everyone had shared their phase with each other. Gao Feng knew about Lin Yuan's ethereal jellyfish. His originally nervous heart immediately calmed down. Tomorrow was the day for the test. Gao Feng felt that there was no meaning in returning to his room. Lin Yuan's room was a single room, and there were no other roommates. Gao Feng simply stayed in Lin Yuan's room and spent the night with Lin Yuan. The next morning, the sun hung high, and there were no clouds. The Radiance 100 sequence test might be held on the star web. However, the opening ceremony before the Radiance 100 sequence test wasn't held on the star web. In the past, it was only on this day that people could see the reclusive 13 excellencies. Under Gao Feng's strong request, Lin Yuan wore a set of black spirit chi attire. This set of spirit chi attire was similar to the first time Lin Yuan fought as black. The spirit chi attire was more or less the same. However, due to Genius's bloodline, there was a transformation. The mask formed from the tool transformation had undergone a huge change compared to before. Back then, when Lin Yuan wore this mask, people thought that he was Black's fake fan. Today, even if Lin Yuan wore black clothes and the mask formed by Genius's tool transformation, no one thought that he was black. On the contrary, the people wearing the old silver masks were being hit on. When Gao Feng saw this scene, he forcefully suppressed his laughter. After holding it in for a moment, he looked at those people wearing silver masks and pretending to be black. They looked at Lin Yuan with disdain. Gao Feng couldn't hold it in anymore. He laughed heartily. In the end, he laughed until he coughed. This made Lin Yuan abnormally embarrassed. At that moment, there were 2 strange, enchanting, and elegant neighing sounds. It came from the horizon. It immediately attracted the attention of everyone who just came out of the 100 Seedlings Tower. Chapter 1641. In fact, it wasn't just the newcomers from the 100 Seeds Tower. Basically, the entire royal capital, even the places that were far away from the Radiance Sacred Hall. He could also faintly see 2 winding silhouettes on the horizon. A green figure and a white figure were pulling a pagoda. The pagoda was inlaid with moonlight stones that emitted brilliant moonlight. When the people in the distance saw this scene, they immediately cheered. These people knew that the giant azure and white snake was pulling the Fey carriage. Its name was Ling Hanhua Tower Carriage. It was the Moon Empress mount. People cheered as they looked up at the tower being pulled by the 2 giant snakes. These people knew that the Moon Empress, one of the 3 Class 5 creation masters, was seated in the tower. His Holiness, who had always been protecting Hui Yao. However, the youths who had just come out of the 100 Seeds Tower, as well as the city lords of the major cities who were leading them, were all shocked. At this moment, compared to astonishment, there was more shock and fear. Lin Yuan had seen Ling Hanhua's tower car before. Ling Hanhua's carriage had always been placed in the moon stable of the Leaning Moon Mountain. The green and white snakes usually transformed into their human forms and guarded the entrance of the moon stable. The green and white snakes both had special bloodlines. When Lin Yuan had watched the 2 snakes change from human form to their original form, he had been shocked. Its body was only 1,000 meters long. But now, the 2 snakes were more than 3,000 meters long. Clearly, the strength of the 2 snakes had increased. Lin Yuan had been using Morbius to examine the 2 soaring serpents. Morbius couldn't find anything. This meant that the strength of these 2 snakes at that time was already at the undying level. Once a Fey's strength reached a certain level, It wouldn't be able to survive unless there was a huge improvement. Otherwise, the Fae's body and appearance wouldn't change much. As for these two giant greenish-white snakes, whether it was in terms of appearance or body size, they were completely different. Both of them had undergone tremendous changes. The wings on the backs of the green and white snakes looked rounder, but now, it had turned into a fin-like appearance. From the 7-inch position to the tail, the edges of the fins were still like lotus petals. He could tell just by looking at the wings. The green and white snakes' soaring serpent bloodlines were purified. The green and white snakes coiled around each other. The fins flipped outwards, forming a green and white lotus. Supporting the moonlight tower, there was a kind of cold aura. At the same time, the scales on the snake's body also changed. The snake's scales from before had a kind of sharpness and wildness. But now, even the green snake, which was slightly more ferocious than the white snake. The scales on his body also became like jade. Lin Yuan estimated that the green and white snakes had most likely reached the eternal realm. The two hisses just now came from the mouths of these two snakes. The surroundings of the pagoda were covered with hazy moonlight. The moonlight was as long as 10 miles, stretching out tens of miles in the sky. Wherever the moonlight passed, the misty rain became hazy. Mystic Moon and Song Yu stood on either side of the moon pagoda. It showed the status of the moon envoys. Xian Yu wore a silver robe while Song Yu wore a blue robe, even though the green and white snakes had retracted their auras. However, this shocking scene still surpassed the understanding of the younger generation. The city lords of the major cities also felt a tremor that came from their souls. This was the radiant Moon Empress. Even the spiritual carriage had the power to look down on the world. Lin Yuan had always been a character that appeared beside the Moon Empress. He had to visit the Radiance Palace from time to time. He had to have a knowledge quiz with the Moon Empress. He had also eaten a lot of the delicacies made by the Moon Empress. Lin Yuan had never seen the Moon Empress from such a perspective. Gao Feng, who was beside Lin Yuan's side. Brother Lin, the Moon Empress's carriage is simply. Before Gao Feng could finish his sentence, 7 piercing eagle cries rang out. The 7 purple-winged giant eagles soared up and instantly rose into the sky. Behind the 7 giant eagles was a castle-like palace. The architectural style of this palace was different from the architectural style of the Radiance Palace. Each of the 7 giant eagles had a wingspan of nearly 1,000 meters. They were arranged in a V-shape in the sky. Between each giant eagle's wings, there was a gorgeous blue-purple electric current. The power of the giant eagle's wings triggered the clear sky. A few dazzling purple electric currents flashed down. In front of the castle stood 3 old men. This aura directly collided with the Moon Empress's carriage, the Cold Moon Pagoda carriage. However, under this power, the green and white snakes did not show any violent reaction. This made the 3 old men in front of the castle reveal a slightly puzzled expression. His Holiness Li Su took out the Divine Thunder Eagle carriage. It was to weaken the Radiance Holiness's aura. 7 immortal Divine Thunder Eagles pulled a Fey carriage. It was already considered the world's top equipment. The Freedom Federation had been waiting for the holiness of the Radiance Holiness to drive the Fey carriage. In the end, the first to drive the Fey carriage to the Radiance Sacred Hall was the Moon Empress. 10 years ago, the Moon Empress killed a holiness of the Freedom Federation. She destroyed a legacy of the Freedom Federation. Until now, this position had not been filled. It could be said that the Freedom Federation and the Moon Empress had the greatest hatred. Therefore, when the Moon Empress appeared in the Cold Moon Pagoda carriage, the 3 old men immediately drove the Divine Thunder Eagle carriage up the mountain. They were prepared to give the Moon Empress a show of strength. At this moment, a cold female voice sounded from within the Cold Moon Pagoda carriage. Tung Bai Ting Qing. After the cold female voice called out these 4 words, the bodies of the green and white snakes instantly lit up with a faint fluorescent light. A demonic feeling rose from the green and white snakes. In the sky, it formed a 10,000-meter tall green and white giant snake shadow. Following that, the 2 figures transformed in a flash. They turned into 2 women wearing green and white dresses. The 2 women opened their cherry lips and took a deep breath in the direction of the Divine Thunder Eagle carriage. Green and white halos instantly wrapped around these 7 Divine Thunder Eagles that were tainted with immortality. It was as if something was being pulled out of the Divine Thunder Eagle's body. The aura of the 7 Divine Thunder Eagles instantly stopped. Lin Yuan had just secretly used Morbius to inquire about the 7 Divine Thunder Eagles. In the end, he could not see their skills and exclusive skills. After Morbius woke up, when Lin Yuan was investigating these targets, Morbius itself could block the probing. It made it difficult for the probing targets to discover that they were being spied on. At this moment, Lin Yuan suddenly realized he could actually see the data of these 7 Divine Thunder Eagle. At this moment, the grade of the Divine Thunder Eagle had fallen to Monarch Class 9 Creation 6 Tribulation. 3 stern shouts came from the 3 old men. Moon Empress, our Freedom Federation's envoy group, came to the Radiance sect to observe the ceremony. Why did you attack the Divine Thunder Eagle that was pulling the carriage? As soon as the 3 old men finished speaking, the cold female voice sounded again. According to the rules of the Radiance sect, any envoy group that goes to the Radiance Sacred Hall to observe the ceremony must go on foot. This is a warning. If there is a next time, Tung Bai and Tung Qing will not just absorb the grade of these 7 eagles. Chapter 1642. When the 3 old men heard this, they were obviously dissatisfied. His Holiness Li Su's Fei carriage was now in trouble. When they returned, there was no way they could explain themselves. At this moment, the woman's voice suddenly turned cold. If you do it again, you'll die. The 3 old men had never imagined that the Moon Empress's 2 chariots would achieve eternity, not to mention 7 Divine Thunder Harrier Eagles. Even 700 Divine Thunder Harrier Eagles would not be able to withstand it, nor could it suppress the 2 Frost Flower Immortal Vines that had attained eternity. No one understood the Moon Empress' temper better than the Freedom Federation's experts. After all, the Freedom Federation's majesty had fallen in the hands of the Moon Empress. The Moon Empress was a person who would make a move if there was a disagreement. The Divine Thunder Eagle carriage, which had just risen into the air, was forced to descend. The 3 elders of the Freedom Federation and the younger generation, just as he was about to head to the Radiance Sacred Hall to attend the ceremony like the Azure Federation's envoy group, a hoarse voice echoed in the sky. Moon Empress, could my chariot Fei be flying above the royal capital? Are we going to all fall by a large rank? As he spoke, a man in a golden robe appeared out of thin air. It faced Ling Hanyue's carriage from afar. The Moon Empress replied coldly, "The Freedom Federation hasn't come to the Radiance Association for 10 years. Have you forgotten about the Hui Yao's rules? If you can't remember the rules, I don't mind teaching you Hui Yao's rules." As she spoke, the Moon Empress released her aura. Ever since the Moon Empress obtained the lifespan rat, her strength had a breakthrough. After the incident, the Moon Empress' strength improved again. At that moment, the Moon Empress released her aura. It was the same aura he had when he first obtained the lifespan rat. Upon sensing the aura released by the Moon Empress, the long-haired man in the golden robe suddenly felt a chill down his spine. A fearful look appeared on his face. At that moment, the Moon Empress continued speaking. No non-citizens of the Radiance sect are allowed to step into the royal capital's sky. As the Radiance Federation's majesty, you are now flying above the royal capital. Are you planning to join Radiance? Or should he go down immediately? Otherwise, your actions will be regarded as a provocation to Hui Yao. 10 years ago, I think you should be very clear about why the people of your Freedom Federation died. The Moon Empress' words caused the golden-robed man's expression to change again and again. The people from the Hui Yao sect were the most law-abiding. The dispute 10 years ago had started because of breaking the Radiance Association's rules. Li Su knew that if he persisted, he would be able to stand in the air. The Moon Empress wouldn't hesitate to attack him. According to the aura that the Moon Empress had just displayed, he was on par with her in terms of strength. Even if the Moon Empress made a move, there was nothing to be afraid of. However, Hui Yao's 12 highnesses were still eyeing this place like tigers watching their prey. He couldn't be as foolish as that old fellow. He was fighting the Moon Empress on Radiance's land. He thought about his plan for coming to Radiance and his future preparations. A strange expression appeared on the man's face. Then, his figure disappeared into thin air. He appeared in front of the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission. At this moment, the Emperor of the Federation had arrived. However, on the faces of the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission, there wasn't the slightest bit of excitement. After clashing with the Moon Empress Aura, Li Su was at a disadvantage. This in itself was a very demoralizing behavior. Li Su did not care about this, as he spoke to the people behind him. Follow me to the Radiance Sacred Hall to observe the ceremony. It was the exact opposite of the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission. The young geniuses of the 100 Seedlings Tower all raised their heads in excitement. They looked up at Ling Hanyue's carriage. They all understood that the Moon Empress had gained the upper hand in the confrontation with the Freedom Federation's highness. They all felt that they had gained a lot of face. However, Ling Yuan and Gao Feng's expressions turned grim. For this ceremony, the Freedom Federation's highness had specially arrived. At the beginning, this highness did not appear. He only appeared after the event. This showed that the Freedom Federation definitely had some other motives. Since they had mobilized a highness, their motive would definitely not be simple. Ling Yuan and Gao Feng did not respond to the cheers of the other young geniuses. Compared to responding, Ling Yuan and Gao Feng saw further. The two of them understood very well how Hui Yao had fought for this face. It relied on strength. If the strength of the two snakes pulling the carriage had not increased, there was no way for them to resist the might of the 7 divine Thunder Eagles. Their master's strength was not strong enough. It was also impossible for them to force the Freedom Federation's Highness Li Su to retreat. The scene just now was like a farce. After settling everything, the huge snake coiled its body again and lifted the Moon Tower, heading towards the Radiance Sacred Hall. Not long after Ling Hanyue's carriage arrived, one by one, the spirit carriages headed towards the Radiance Sacred Hall. These spirit carriages were of different shapes and sizes. The weakest of the spirit creatures pulling the carriages had touched the immortal realm. The spirit carriages of different shapes and sizes displayed the majesty of the highness. At the same time, it was also a visual feast for ordinary people. And at this moment, a young man who was originally at the end of the line. He passed Yin Ling, Kai Hua, and Yu Changjian. He passed Qian Yu, who was the freedom envoy. He arrived beside Li Su, who was the highness. He opened his mouth and asked, "The Freedom Federation's side, is everything ready?" Li Su heard this, looked at the young man standing beside him and said, "I'm already here. The Freedom Federation's side is naturally ready. As for you guys, have you prepared everything that needs to be prepared?" When the young man heard this, his eyes were suddenly covered by a layer of gray mist. After a while, the gray mist dissipated. "It's all ready. The black mass cup of lashing the 6th page has already been poured. We're just waiting for the Freedom Federation to take action. We'll follow immediately. In addition, I've already mobilized all 4 horse riders. For this operation, we'll cover them with a layer of protection." After saying this, he did not give Li Su a chance to continue asking questions. This young man retreated to the back of the line. Yin Ling, Kai Hua, and Yu Changjian looked at this young man with a rather fearful expression. The others looked at this young man with abnormal fear in their eyes. All the way to the Radiance Sacred Hall. When they arrived at the entrance of the Radiance Sacred Hall, Li Su knew how big was the entire Radiance Sacred Hall. Compared to the Radiance Sacred Hall, which had previously hosted the All-Star competition, the Radiance Sacred Hall was at least 10 times bigger than the Radiance Sacred Hall, which could accommodate hundreds of thousands of people. The surrounding white marble pillars soared into the sky and pierced the clouds. It was like a dreamy arena. Thousands of white marble pillars surrounded the square. In the middle of every 2 white marble pillars, there was a connecting area. These connecting areas were the audience seats for the battle. In front of them stood 13 golden stone pillars. On these 13 golden stone pillars, there were 13 seats. This was where His Highness Saturday. Chapter 1643. There were 5 stone pillars that emitted 7-colored light. These 5 stone pillars were not any shorter than the 13 golden stone pillars. These 5 7-colored stone pillars were the places where the Radiance Envoy sat. These 5 7-colored stone pillars were the places where the Radiance Envoy sat. However, during the Radiance 100 sequence test, under normal circumstances, the Radiance envoys would not participate. The stone pillars were made into a 7-colored appearance, just like the color of a sacred source life form, before it was contracted. This was enough to show how much Hui Yao valued the Radiance envoys. Or rather, it was how much it valued the inheritance. Below the 13 golden stone pillars, and the 5 7-colored stone pillars, there were 10 stone pillars that emitted 5-colored light. The 5-colored stone pillars were slightly shorter than the 7-colored stone pillars. Every 2 pillars were clustered around a 7-colored stone pillar. These 10 5-colored stone pillars were where the members of the Radiance Light Knights sat. In addition, there were 100 silver stone pillars. These silver stone pillars were much lower than the 5-colored stone pillars. They were where the Radiance 100 sequence sat. However, during the Radiance 100 sequence selection, these 100 silver stone pillars did not have the chance to be filled at the start. This was because the 91st to 100th place had to participate in the selection. Before they had passed the selection and proved themselves, they had already lost the glory of being a Radiance 100 sequence member. Lin Yuan and Gao Feng stood together. As the crowd arrived at the Radiance Plaza, they spontaneously stood in neat square lines. At that moment, a bullseye suddenly sounded. A huge green bull stepped on green flames with yin and yang patterns flowing on its body. The power of yin and yang rose from the back of the green bull. On the back of the green bull sat a youth wearing a gold and red dual-colored robe. This youth's face had a long scar from the corner of his eye to the root of his ear. The long scar on the youth's face did not look the slightest bit sinister. Instead, it set off the youth's temperament especially resolute. Lin Yuan immediately used Morbius' True Data ability. He examined this cow species Fei. Yin Yang Bull Peak Suzerain X/Myth 2. It was actually a myth breed Fei. Based on its grade and quality, this cow species Fei was actually able to transform into a human. This cow species Fei was obviously able to transform into a human form. A youth who was obviously less than 30 years old had such strength. He had even appeared in the Radiance Sacred Hall. It was enough to prove the identity of this young man. When Lin Yuan had been chatting with Gao Feng last night, he had received a call from He. He got to know He's senior brother Lu Yifan, who was currently the 3rd-ranked Radiance envoy. He would participate in the Radiance 100 sequence selection. He was also in charge of the assessment. He was a brother complex. He had discovered this during the 5-person meeting with Lu Jie, Zhong Zhe, Gu Lang, Gao Feng, and He. It was impossible for Anha to give him a false message. Presumably, this young man riding the yin-yang twin bull was He's senior brother. In other words, he was the eldest disciple of His Holiness Changdeng. He was the 3rd Radiance envoy of the current generation. The yin-yang twin ox landed firmly in the center of the 5 7-colored stone pillars. Seeing the spot where the young man had landed, the crowd below erupted into an uproar. The current 5 Radiance envoys lived in seclusion and rarely showed their faces. Lin Yuan had never had the chance to see it. It was conceivable that the others would not have the chance to see it. Lu Yifan stood on the rainbow-colored stone pillar in the middle. He looked down at the younger generation members, who were preparing to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence test. Lu Yifan felt like he was looking at himself when he was 18 or 19 years old. Lu Yifan said loudly, "Everyone, please be quiet. As the 3rd-ranked Radiance envoy, I wish everyone in advance that you will be able to showcase your strength to the fullest in the assessment. Next, let's welcome the members of the 100 sequence." As soon as Lu Yifan finished speaking, there were 90 auspicious beasts and jade elixir cranes riding on 90 members of the 100 sequence. It flew towards the silver stone pillar. The jade cinnabar crane, as a top-notch auspicious sign, was usually kept in the 100 Beasts Temple. It was only during the annual Radiance 100 sequence test. That was why these jade cinnabar cranes were used to transport the members of the 100 sequence. At that moment, Lin Yuan and Gao Feng suddenly realized something. Without his mask, Lu Jie stood at the top of the 100 sequence. Long Tao stood in 2nd place. Now Lu Jie was mentioned again. He was already going to address Lu Jie as the Radiance 100 sequence number 1, Heart of Insect Swarm Lu Jie. Lu Jie and Long Tao looked at the crowd. He wanted to find Lin Yuan and Gao Feng's location. Searching among tens of thousands of people was a difficult task in itself. Moreover, Lu Jie and Long Tao suddenly realized something. Many of them were wearing silver masks on their faces. After knowing that it was impossible to find Lin Yuan and Gao Feng, Lu Jie and Long Tao's eyes fell on Lu Yifan. Lu Yifan obviously knew Xia Qing, so he nodded slightly to her. Long Tao looked at Lu Yifan with respect in his heart. More than that, he yearned. Long Tao yearned to be a Radiance envoy. However, after seeing the strength of Lin Yuan, Lu Jie, Zhongzhe and the others, after knowing the position of the Radiance envoy, he would not have a chance. Therefore, Long Tao put his eyes on the colorful stone pillar behind Lu Yifan. Lu Jie was the same. However, Lu Jie and Long Tao thought completely different. It was not because Lu Jie did not have the ability to fight for it. But before that, Lu Jie understood what he truly wanted. Therefore, Lu Jie's mind was on the colorful stone pillar from the beginning. However, Lu Jie's eyes were fixed on the 7 colored stone pillars. He did not know where Lin Yuan would stand 1 year later. At that time, he must stand firmly behind Lin Yuan. For the members who had not yet entered the 100 sequence, most of these examinees' eyes fell on the 100 sequence members. Because of these people, the position under them. This was the goal that those examinees had to strive for. If they could break through, then before the Radiance 100 sequence selection ended, they would have the opportunity to ride on the back of the jade pellet crane. They would head to the silver stone pillar to feel the scenery on it. Lin Yuan's eyes looked around the Radiance 100 sequence members. He found that Zhao Xiaochun was the most ferocious. Zhao Xiaochun and Shi were a couple. Now one was ranked 6th, and the other was ranked 9th. In the top 10 of the entire 100 sequence, only Shi and Zhao Xiaochun were a couple. At that moment, Lu Yifan said in a clear voice with a solemn expression, "Next, please bring out the 4th of the 7 major weapons, the Mountain River State Bells." As Lu Yifan's voice fell, an ethereal bell chime rang out. Then the bell rang continuously. A force field suddenly sealed off the entire Radiance Sacred Hall. At that moment, everyone saw a huge set of bells. They were suspended in the air above the Radiance Sacred Hall. The bells were bronze in color, and thousands of miles of mountains and rivers were engraved on them. Under each mountain and river, there was a earth vein. Each earth vein had a faint tendency to transform into a dragon. There was obviously no one knocking. However, the chimes continued to ring on their own. End of this chapter. Chapter 1644. He had heard his master, the Moon Empress. The Radiance Federation's 7 stabilizing treasures were sacred source life forms that had reached 10 stars and above. They were treasures made from dead bodies. It could be said that the 7 stabilizing treasures could affect the weather to a certain extent. But what was the use of the Mountain River set bells? Lin Yuan did not know. It seemed that it was related to defense. The interior of the Radiance Sacred Hall had become a world of its own. After inviting out the Mountain River set bells, Lu Yifan spoke. "Let's invite the Freedom Federation and the Azure Federation's ambassadors to sit on the stone pillars." Following Lu Yifan's instructions, as the 4th Azure envoy, Yin Lin led the Azure Federation's ambassadors. She chose a stone pillar and sat on it. But the Freedom Federation did not follow Lu Yifan's instructions. He sat on the beam of the stone pillar. Standing at the front of the Freedom Federation's team was Li Su, dressed in a golden robe. She stood motionless. Freedom Envoy Qianyu, who was standing behind Li Su, could only stay where he was. After the arrival of the Majesty, as a Freedom Envoy, he no longer had the right to speak. This was the difference between the Freedom Federation and the Radiance Federation. At that moment, the Mountain River set bells chimes suddenly became loud and clear. The earth veins suppressed by the 108 bells suddenly glowed. The earth veins turned into dragons and raised their heads. The power of mountains and rivers pressed down on Li Su. The power of each dragon head was equal to that of a dragon's. It was like a real mountain and river. This power had reached the level of a celestial phenomenon. Li Su glanced at the aura that was coming at him. He lifted his feet and walked towards the stone pillar. Li Su was very clear about the power of the Radiance Federation's stabilizing treasures. If he wanted to resist, he had to show his strength. Once he showed his strength, It was impossible for the Radiance Federation's Majesty to not make a move. He thought about his purpose of coming this time. Li Su suppressed his temper and took this step. Qian Yu, who was behind Li Su, hurriedly followed. The Freedom Federation's Majesty each had their own purpose and thoughts. No matter what Li Su did this time, as long as they could not achieve their purpose of coming to the Radiance Federation, they would definitely be punished afterwards. Therefore, from the bottom of his heart, Qian Yu did not wish for an intense conflict to occur. After Li Su took a step forward and walked towards the stone pillar, the might of the set of mountains and rivers of the god of earth and veil bells had been unleashed. It circled around in the sky. It returned to the raised dragon head of the Shanhasheiji bells. It made the Shanhasheiji chimes play an even more melodious melody. Seeing that the envoys from the two federations had already taken their places, Lu Yifan said loudly, "Let us welcome your majesties onto the stage." 13 fey carriages with different postures appeared in front of the golden stone pillar. 13 majesties, all dressed in regal robes, flew through the air. He walked up to the golden stone pillar. From the moment their majesties sat down, the Radiance 100 sequence test had officially begun. Lu Wensheng, who was in charge of the Radiance 100 sequence test, said, "Now the Radiance 100 sequence test will officially begin. Everyone, please use your Star Web card to enter the Star Web, and enter the teleportation gate in front of you to enter the assessment venue. This test will last for 3 days. After 2 days, the size of the examination venue will start to shrink. At the same time, dimensional rifts will open from time to time in the examination venue. Only 10 people are left. The test has ended. Fill in the vacancies of the 100 sequence from 91 to 100. The original Radiance 100 sequence members from 91 to 100 will participate in the test as contestants. That's all I have to say. Since the test will be conducted on the Star Web, none of your lives will be in danger. Therefore, there are no additional rules for the 100 sequence this time. Now let's begin." After Lu Wensheng finished speaking, Yi Xuan's expression changed. He spoke to the two elders standing beside him. "Wenxiu Wuxiu, the two of you will give each of the two envoys a temporary Star Web card. Make it convenient for the two envoys to observe the ceremony." After hearing Lu Wensheng's instructions, the two elders flew toward the stone pillar, where the two envoys were seated. The envoys from the two federations were looking forward to it. They wanted to experience the wonders of the Star Web firsthand. After all, the Star Web was a product of the interaction between the 3 sacred source life forms. There was really no way to replicate it. At this moment, the most lively place was the Star Web. It could be said that as long as one had a Star Web card, at this moment, they had all entered the Star Web. Otherwise, they would be prepared to watch the Star Web's official live broadcast. Otherwise, they would stay in the live streaming room and watch familiar hosts broadcast the Radiance 100 sequence selection. If there was a contestant that they especially supported, he could even adjust the camera to focus on that player. The traffic in Tieba and various fan groups skyrocketed to more than 5 times the usual. The Grumpy Brothers were already clamoring in the live broadcast room. "Why hasn't it started yet? Hurry up and start. I can't wait. I'm going to focus on Black today. I don't believe that Black won't use an ultimate move or summon a new Fae during the Radiance 100 sequence selection. I feel that Black might be the same as before." He didn't even reveal his strength during the duel with Lu Shuang. How could his opponent be as powerful as Lu Shuang during the Radiance 100 sequence selection? Didn't you see the competition rules published on the Star Web 2 minutes ago? A battle for survival. Black isn't just facing competitors, but also the dimensional rift. In the face of the exotic beast tide, how can Black do nothing? As a resident of Millstone Town, the test rules remind me of Black's plant Fae. In the memories of the people of Millstone Town, they will never forget the sea of flowers that collided with the insect tide and kept eroding it. I don't care about Black. My son is ranked 47th in the Stormy Wave 100, so I'm going to focus on my son. Lu Shuang had previously dueled with Black. She was very popular. During this period, Lu Shuang had been using Black's popularity to hype herself up. A large number of viewers had gathered in Lu Shuang's live streaming room. After looking at the rules for a long time, Lu Shuang said, "This test must be about teamwork." "The test this time must be a test of teamwork," Yi Zichen said. "It's impossible to resist the Class 2 exotic beast tide with an individual's ability. In the Class 2 exotic beast tide, there are already dimensional life forms that are comparable to Platinum Fays. Even if a person has a Diamond Fay, as long as the Fay isn't good at endurance, it won't be able to last for 3 days. Furthermore, the dimensional rift opens up randomly. If 2 dimensional rifts are close to each other, one will face the situation of being attacked from both sides. Therefore, it's impossible to form a small team to survive for 3 days. A large team must work together." End of this chapter. Chapter 1645. Thinking of this, Lu Shuang's heart thumped. He immediately understood that this test was a test of strength. It was also a test of human nature and the human heart. Lu Shuang might not have participated in the Radiance 100 sequence selection. He had never been a Radiance 100 sequence member for even a day. However, Lu Shuang was not weak. Back then, Lu Shuang didn't participate because she relied on a spiritual type Fae. It was a defense type spirit chi professional who was attacking. It was simply too obscure, and it was easy for others to target it. In battle, other than consuming spiritual energy, one had to be extremely careful. It also consumed spiritual energy. Spiritual power could be easily replenished. However, it would take a lot of time for him to recover his mental energy. Therefore, for various reasons, Lu Shuang had given up several chances to take the test. But in the current environment, this assessment method completely shattered the limitations of healing type and support type spirit chi professionals. During teamwork, healing type spirit chi professionals and support type spirit chi professionals would work together. They were often more popular than power offense type spirit chi professionals. If he had been in the same state when he participated in the test, he would have been able to do so. The exquisite rhinoceros deer could recover other Fae's spiritual energy. He would definitely be protected by his team. From Lu Shuang's perspective, the 100 sequence assessment was a revolution. It was undoubtedly a great success. Lu Shuang's father was a spirit guard. His mother was a secretary in Cloud Pool City. Lu Shuang had been exposed to the environment since she was young. It could be said that Lu Shuang was familiar with the current situation. They possess far sharper judgment than ordinary people. Since a month ago, bellflower after bellflower bloomed in the sky above the Huiyao sect. These platycodon flowers spewed out volcanoes and lava fell from the sky. A giant golden tree blocked the lava that was falling from the sky. Lu Shuang only knew about the Radiance Federation and the Freedom Federation. A serious conflict was bound to break out. The crux of the conflict was the assembly of 10,000 states. However, this collision had already caused undercurrents to surge. The news of opening a Class 6 Abyss dimensional rift and turning the Abyss world into a mirror world came too suddenly. There was no buffer time at all. This caused the prices of goods in the Radiance Empire to fluctuate violently within a short period of time. The Majesties didn't hesitate to release trillions of resources to compensate for the turbulence in the market, restore the stability of all prices. He also wanted to promote the establishment of mirror towns in the Abyss world. Lu Shuang keenly felt that the times had changed. The atmosphere had also changed. Originally, spirit chi professionals could do a lot of work. There was no need to face any risks while harvesting in the wild. They would be able to survive. It could be developed in the Abyss world to face the abyssal demons. If he was not careful, he would be severely injured. They might even die under the claws of the abyssal demons. The requirements of the Highnesses were 36 major cities, each of which was to build a mirror city in the Abyss world. On one hand, it expanded the Radiance sect's territory and increased the range of resources it could obtain. Fundamentally, it was to contain the rolling of resources. On the other hand, it was also filled with a sense of training. It allowed every spirit chi professional to experience the baptism of blood and fire. In such a situation, the Radiance 100 sequence members were seen by the High Holiness. Character and temperament were often more important than strength. A spirit chi professional's strength depended on their comprehension of willpower runes. the speed at which a spirit chi professional's rank increased. It was also the number of Creation Master's resources. The Creation Master was a mystical occupation that could be completed in just a few days. He had upgraded a normal Fey to Diamond. As long as a person had the ability to comprehend a willpower rune, the spirit chi professional's rank wouldn't be slow. With enough Creation Master resources, one would be able to become a prodigy. On the contrary, without the resources of a Creation Master, one would only have talent. It would still be difficult to play any fundamental role. After all, spirit chi professionals would rely on Fays in a duel. It wasn't the spirit chi professionals themselves. It could be said that as long as the High Holiness wanted to nurture them, it was enough to turn a mediocre person into a prodigy. Of course, this statement was a little too extreme. Using this method to select the Radiance 100 sequence members, it was far more comprehensive than using the duel method to select the Radiance 100 sequence members. Furthermore, to be able to become the last 10 survivors, it was impossible for them to not be powerful. In Lu Shuang's heart, she didn't have any expectations for Black's Radiance 100 sequence test. Black could defeat her. It could be said that this test was equivalent to Black directly determining a spot. Becoming a Sanctuary class expert in the Star Web duel would then participate in the 100 sequence test. In Lu Shuang's opinion, it was simply inhumane. However, most of the people in her live streaming room were Black's fans. As a result, Lu Shuang had to lock her perspective on Black's perspective in advance. Star Phoenix Eye, Shuangzi, what are you thinking? You haven't said anything. If you don't say a few more words, Poison Beauty's popularity will surpass yours. Poison Beauty has encountered Black 3 times in a row, and has already obtained the title of Madam Black on Star Web. She has joked that she has an ill-fated relationship with Black, and is a match made in heaven. Lu Shuang and Poison Beauty were both veteran live streamers. Lu Shuang knew how to use Black's popularity to hype herself up, and Poison Beauty naturally knew this well too. In addition, Poison Beauty had been a live streamer for a period of time. Her glib tongue had become even smoother than before. In the live streaming room, Poison Beauty would often reveal some specious details. During the duel previously, Poison Beauty had indeed fought against several of Black's Fays before. At that moment, Poison Beauty was talking in the live streaming room. Let me tell you, don't doubt what I say. Black's bluebird species Fae is definitely light type. During the duel, I was killed by that blue bird. During the duel, I was killed by that blue bird. When we were fighting before, I felt the ground beneath my feet binding me. During the duel previously, I felt that the ground under my feet had a binding feeling. I think it should be done by Black using his sand element type life form. From time to time, Poison Beauty would ask the administrator to ban those accounts that were messing around. From time to time, Poison Beauty asked the administrator to ban those accounts that messed around. Now her live streaming room could be said to be a cornucopia. Because 1 or 2 smelly fish had messed up the entire pot. Because of 1 or 2 smelly fish, it messed up the entire environment. Upon hearing Star Luan I mention Poison Beauty, Lu Shuang specially checked. She found that Poison Beauty's current popularity was second only to her. She was even more popular than those retired 100 sequence members who started live streaming. Lu Shuang hurriedly used her best move. She was prepared to continue analyzing Black's 8-tailed spirit cat. The information about Black that Poison Beauty mentioned could be found in the post. However, she had personally faced Black's 8-tailed spirit cat. She was the only one who had personally experienced it. Before Black summoned the 8-tailed spirit cat again, what she said was the closest answer to the truth. However, before giving Lu Shuang a chance, she suddenly realized. An image appeared from Black's perspective. Chapter 1646. At this moment, the image was focused on a young man dressed in black spirit chi clothes. The audience in Lu Shuang's live streaming room was in an uproar. This isn't going to kindergarten, eh? My husband finally appeared. Looking forward to it. Husband, quickly summon the Fae, and let me have a good time. Girl who won't step on ants. Black's perspective has appeared. The Radiance 100 sequence test has finally begun. This test will last for 72 hours. It's too exciting to watch for 72 hours. Free like the wind, Why isn't Black moving? Black, quickly move. I can take it. About your worries, Black's girlfriend fans, please watch your words and deeds. As Black's male mother, I don't agree for my son to be with you. The live streaming room was filled with comments. As they kept scrolling, everyone noticed a problem. It was the mask that Black was wearing, and everyone's impression of the mask that Black should be wearing. It was completely different. This made the people who noticed the scene have a question in their hearts. Could it be that Black knew that today was the Radiance 100 sequence test? Did he deliberately wear a more exquisite mask? The mask that Black had worn previously was a plain silver mask. There were 3 shallow patterns on it. It was very easy to imitate. As long as you took out 500 Federation dollars, you could find a blacksmith to make one. This was why Black's fans could easily imitate Black. It didn't require any capital to imitate Black. Black's mask had 4 patterns on the left and right. These patterns were especially elegant, like silk fluttering in the wind. When Lu Shuang noticed this, her pupils shrank. Was Black's mask made of a tool transformation fey? There had always been a controversy on the star web. Lu Shuang firmly believed that there was a problem with Black's mask. In the face of the exquisite rhinoceros deer's attack, Black's mask lit up. Lu Shuang felt that with Black's low-key personality, it wouldn't be because of the Radiance 100 sequence selection. It would change the mask into a new style. When the bloodline metamorphosed, and the strength increased, phase that could be transformed into tool transformation. It wouldn't change the type of tool transformation. However, it could make the tool transformation item more exquisite. The transformation of the mask that Black was wearing perfectly matched this point. Lu Shuang was already certain in her heart. Black must have used that feline fey to defeat him back then. It had become stronger. As Lin Yuan didn't move, Lu Shuang's audience was puzzled. In fact, it wasn't just Lu Shuang's audience. The audience in the other live streaming rooms, that locked onto Black's perspective, were also puzzled. Black seemed to be sensing something. His face was deep in thought, as if he was sensing something. This caused a lot of viewers to quit the live streaming room. Tool. Noticing that the others were looking at them, they quickly took action. This caused the viewers who returned to the live stream channel to watch the live stream. They all complained in the bullet screen. Confused being no way. Black won't think that he's strong, and no one will find trouble with him. He'll just stand here until the end of the test. World weariness. If Black takes off his mask, I can consider eating off his face for 3 consecutive days. But Black is wearing a mask, so there's really no point in looking at it. Black T. But you, double quotes life's master. Chi. Life you. T's you. Lin Yuan was using the ethereal jellyfish to sense Gao Feng's location. A moment later, Lin Yuan felt Gao Feng's general location. Gao Feng wasn't close to him. For every spirit chi professional participating in the test, the 100,000 square kilometer test venue would be extremely large. It was an unknown region for every spirit chi professional. According to what His Holiness Wencheng said, 3 hours after entering the examination grounds, the first dimensional rift was about to open. After that, another dimensional rift would open every 2 hours. In about 1.5 days, all 20 dimensional rifts would open. Therefore, everyone would be randomly teleported here. They wanted to find a companion in the shortest time possible. When the female examinee saw Lin Yuan, she was stunned. Her eyes lit up. He hurriedly urged the 2-headed inferno hound under him to run over. She invited Lin Yuan first. You should be Black's fan too. Haha, you're a fake fan. You even chose the wrong mask. But your mask is really nice. My name is Chun Lu. Let's go find the other candidates. I believe you should have thought it through. We have to be united for this test. As for the rest, let's wait until we can survive first. Lin Yuan raised his eyebrows. It seemed like this candidate named Chun Lu had thought it through. With the current test method, there was no need to fight and kill at the beginning. Every candidate was an opponent, and also a companion. During the 3 hours when there were no dimensional rifts, the test was about leadership. In a team, there would definitely be a person whose words would be the deciding factor. When the first dimensional rift opened, the dimensional life form tide would split the venue. Every 2 hours, the dimensional rift would continue to split the battlefield. The appearance of the dimensional rift had turned this test into a large-scale war flag game. However, compared to a war flag controlled by others, every chess piece here had their own thoughts. They were all acting on their own. Lin Yuan shook his head at Chen Lu's invitation. Chen Lu glanced at Lin Yuan when she saw that he wasn't willing to team up with her. Without any hesitation, he urged the two-headed inferno hound beneath him to run into the distance. From the moment Lin Yuan shook his head and rejected her, Chen Lu treated Lin Yuan as a fool. She thought that Lin Yuan didn't understand what to do in this test. Wasting time in front of a fool wouldn't do her any good. In addition, she didn't understand Lin Yuan's strength. Otherwise, Chen Lu would want to ride her two-headed inferno hound to get rid of Lin Yuan. Chen Lu, who had already run far away, sighed in her heart. After entering the test venue, he foolishly didn't summon his Fae immediately. Such a teammate would only be a hindrance. Chen Lu didn't realize it. However, the audience in the livestream room, who was watching Lin Yuan, discovered something. An amber button fell from Lin Yuan's wrist to the ground. It turned into a wisp of sand and burrowed into the ground. This made the audience in the livestream room brighten up. They knew that Lin Yuan had used the sand elemental source-type life form. Lin Yuan was also planning to embark on his journey. He was going to find Gao Feng first. Immediately after, everyone was dumbfounded. Thousands of black feathers shot out from the ground. The black feathers were like a storm, shrouding black within. Then, 4 pairs of black wings formed behind black. With a flap of the wings, black flew into the sky. Chapter 1647. When Lin Yuan first logged onto StarWeb, he was 1.77 meters tall. He had consumed the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar and geocentric jade milk. In addition, Lin Yuan was still growing at the age of 18. Now Lin Yuan's height was more than 1.8 meters. It was around 1.81 meters. Such a height could basically be considered the most optimal height for a male spirit chi professional. The 4 pairs of wings on Lin Yuan's back were of different sizes. The main purpose of the 4 pairs of wings was flight and protection. The shape of each feather was sculpted by Lin Yuan by observing Gray's feathers. Therefore, the wings on Lin Yuan's back, they were somewhat similar to crane wings. The 4 pairs of wings were arranged in an orderly manner with different sizes. When flapping, the wings coordinated with each other. It was the most mechanical design. In addition, it had a trace of crane wings' elegant charm. Such wings were simply too cool. In the various live streaming rooms, the audience couldn't help but exclaim from Lin Yuan's perspective. Sunlight, what the hell? Wings appeared on Black's back. Did Black fuse with a certain flying type Fae? Freezing rain. My husband is so handsome. I feel like I'm being carried by my husband in circles in the sky. I love tigers. This was because Black had never revealed this move during their Star Web duels. It seems like Black finally revealed something new during the Radiance 100 sequence test. Heart of Dream. I don't think Black has fused with Faes that can be possessed with exclusive skills. Black has only grown wings, and there are no other changes in its other parts. Did you see those black feathers just now? Did they drill out from the ground? I think these black feathers are likely to be the creation of that amber button that turned into fine sand. Speechless, I'm not guessing. I'll wait for the answer on the forum later. In 10 minutes, the big shots will find out how Black's 4 pairs of wings came about. Lin Yuan flew toward Gao Feng's direction. Along the way, he saw many contestants participating in the test. At the same time, Lin Yuan rode on the blazing twin-headed hound. Chen Lu looked at him with a dumbfounded expression. Lin Yuan didn't choose to team up with anyone other than Gao Feng, because he had his own considerations. Firstly, Lin Yuan was confident. As long as there was a living spirit chi professional, he would definitely be able to survive for 3 days. Therefore, Lin Yuan's choice of teammates was equivalent to being unfair to the others. For every participant in the Radiance 100 sequence test, the Radiance 100 sequence test would be extremely difficult. Who knew how long they had been preparing? It was an extremely important turning point in his life. These people had worked so hard until now. He challenged himself all the way in the big city he lived in. and became one of the city's 100 seedlings. It was all for the glory of the Radiance 100 sequence. Lin Yuan, who worked hard day and night, could understand this the best. The efforts of these contestants could not be wasted. Previously, when Lin Yuan, Lu Jie, Gulang, Zhongzhe, and he and Gao Feng were conversing, Eng had suggested it before. It was better to let Lin Yuan and Gao Feng take all the powerful contestants. All of them were eliminated first. Only 8 with average strength were left. After that, they would have to face the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission. This could be done in a different way. This was to preserve the Radiance Federation's top talents to the greatest extent. After Anha put forward his idea, Lin Yuan decisively rejected Anhe's proposal. Firstly, it was in front of everyone from the Radiance Federation and the envoys of the 2 major federations. He single-handedly destroyed the assessment of the 100 sequence. It was equivalent to throwing the Radiance 100's face. At the same time, this Radiance 100 sequence assessment would become meaningless. Even for many years after that, the Radiance 100 sequence's sense of honor, it would all be reduced. Lin Yuan was not qualified to erase the tens of years of hard work of these contestants. He could not damage the Radiance 100 sequence's sense of honor. The Freedom Federation's original Freedom Envoy led the team, but now it was led by His Holiness. Whether it was the Freedom Envoy or His Holiness, they were not fools. If he did that, the Freedom Federation would feel that the Radiance 100 sequence had a conspiracy against the Freedom Federation. The gains would not make up for the losses. This assessment was what Lin Yuan wanted to do. It was to bring Gao Feng as an outsider and survive for 3 days. To become the last 2 survivors out of the last 10 would be enough. After the source sand burrowed into the ground, it burrowed directly into the ground 50 meters below the ground. Then 50 meters below the ground, it kept smashing the rocks and soil to create a large amount of sand. The deeper the ground, the slower the sand creation speed. The more spiritual power it needed, the more it consumed. But Lin Yuan still chose to do so. Part of it was because of the geological exploration. 50 meters underground in the assessment space was already full of rocks. The sand formed by smashing the rocks would be stronger than the sand formed by soil. On the other hand, if it was in a random dimensional rift, there happened to be a Class 2 underground rift. It was a full 50 meters thick support, and the ground would not collapse. Now the source sand's strength was Diamond X/Fantasy V. The speed of the source sand's sand creation was extremely fast. A wisp of sand shuttled back and forth. In just a few seconds, it could grind the rocks within a 10 square meter range. The yellow sand continued to spread in the direction Lin Yuan flew. The Star Web audience had no way of knowing about this scene. Only Mystic Moon, Space Elder, and another holiness raised their eyebrows in surprise. But the 3 of them did not say anything. However, he focused more on Lin Yuan. Space Elder and the other holiness had always known. Mystic Moon had specially protected Black's information. At such a young age, he could already have a Diamond X/Fantasy V source-type life form. Black's identity was clearly the Moon Empress disciple Lin Yuan. Otherwise, he would not have spent so much effort. The audience who were waiting for the post on the forum. Soon, they saw the post from the Class 4 Creation Master, Master Duanli. During this period, Master Duanli had become Black's researcher. She had been studying Black's Fae. She was exploring Black's secrets. Then she would share her findings on the Star Web. As time went by, Master Duanli's reputation grew. She was living more and more like an internet celebrity. Many people jokingly called her the fallen Class 4 Creation Master. Master Duanli did not care about this. She was only becoming more and more curious about Black. In Duanli's opinion, such a young man had such strength. It was not normal. Duanli, according to my observations, these 4 pairs of wings are definitely not because Black has fused with the Fae. If I am not wrong, the composition of the wings should be the day and night spirit silver. A silver spiritual material. If Black channeled spirit chi into it, the wings should be able to turn white. So according to my speculation, either Black's sand elemental life form has the ability to swallow metal and change its shape, or Black has a Fae or source type life form that can manipulate metal that controls the entire pair of wings. End of this chapter. Chapter 1648. When they saw Master Duan Li's post. The star web users who came to watch the drama all had a preliminary understanding of Black's wings. As long as one's brain was not damaged, they would not question a Class 4 creation master. With the knowledge of a Class 4 creation master, it was impossible to predict a young genius like Black. It was an Emperor-class myth breed Fae. Even a Class 4 creation master could analyze it. The netizens couldn't help but pay attention to Master Duan Li's account. Master Duan Li seemed to have her eyes on Black recently. She had been investigating Black's information. No matter how shocking Black's performance was, as long as they paid attention to Master Duan Li's post, they would be able to understand Black's Fae immediately. After Lin Yuan met Chen Lu, he took off. During this period, spirit chi professionals would occasionally discover Lin Yuan. They would chase him on their flying phase. However, Lin Yuan's flying speed was extremely fast with the source sand. While Lin Yuan was flying at high speed, if he really wanted to investigate, he was even faster than the Platinum Divine Travel Black Swallow. Therefore, even a candidate with a flying Fae could not stop Lin Yuan. Gao Feng had never had a flying Fae. From the moment he was teleported to the test venue, two candidates appeared beside Gao Feng. These two examinees sent out invitations to Gao Feng. Gao Feng knew that these two candidates wanted to have the right to speak. Which side he was biased towards? Which side would have the greater right to speak? Gao Feng and Lin Yuan had no intention of forming a team. What Gao Feng needed to do now was to wait for Lin Yuan to locate him through the ethereal jellyfish's tentacle. Therefore, Gao Feng rejected these two candidates' invitation. These two candidates did not recognize Gao Feng's identity. The slightly fatter candidate was prepared to go first. However, the skinny, broad-faced examinee had a strange aura. He invited Gao Feng again. He even summoned his other two Faes immediately. The three wolf species Faes growled at Gao Feng from time to time. This man was indifferent to the reactions of his three wolf species Faes. It was obvious that he wanted to use this method to threaten Gao Feng. Gao Feng was not the kind of person who could accept threats. Born in a top faction, Gao Feng, who had been pampered since childhood, had a sense of pride. Gao Feng rejected directly. I have no interest in joining. Gao Feng's actions caused this examinee's mental state to collapse. Every contestant who came to participate in the assessment had their questions reviewed in advance. As a prodigy who stood out from his peers, he did not have a high IQ. But at the very least, no one was stupid. This examinee understood very well that at this stage, how important every minute and every second was. He had wasted so much time on this examinee. However, this examinee didn't want to leave with him. Then wouldn't his time be wasted? If he could get the right to speak at the same time, he would have someone by his side. When he met the third person, only then would it be easier to pull a third person into the group. Because in times of crisis, even playing around would breed herd mentality. Otherwise, he could only wait to be roped in by other gangs. Once the dimensional rift in the test space truly opened up, Lin Fan's eyes widened. Those without the right to speak would become pawns in the army. They were sent to the front lines to fight dimensional creatures. It would be very easy to be eliminated. Therefore, he wanted to fight for the spot in the 100 sequence. Gao Feng had become the target of the man in front of him. It was also because of this that even if the young man knew that his actions would be observed, however, he still chose to do so. Brother, let me tell you. If you don't follow me, I can only eliminate you first. The young man was selected from the Golden Edge City and was ranked 11th in the Golden Edge 100 sequence. He believed that in this assessment, he was at least stronger than 20% of the contestants. The confidence accumulated over the years allowed the young man to face Gao Feng. He did not feel the slightest bit of fear. Gao Feng was only 24 years old this year. In addition, Gao Feng looked young. He looked no different from a 21 or 22-year-old youth. From the conversation just now, the young man knew that Gao Feng was a support-type spirit chi professional. Therefore, he dared to bully Gao Feng. When Gao Feng heard this, he frowned. Gao Feng knew very well what the young man in front of him wanted to do. These three wolf beasts had been roaring nonstop since they were summoned. It made Gao Feng very annoyed. However, Gao Feng did not directly attack this young man. Instead, he said, I don't plan to team up with you. And you don't have to use my 3-phase to threaten me. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you. When the young man heard this, he was stunned. He did not understand what Gao Feng was thinking. You're a support-type spirit chi professional, and you're acting arrogant in front of me. I'm a power offense-type spirit chi professional, and I'm at such a close distance. At such a close distance, I'm the nemesis of support-type spirit chi professionals and healing-type spirit chi professionals. In addition, there are only the two of us now. If you don't want to team up with me, do you have a better choice? The young man was prepared to see if his phase attacked. Could Gao Feng still be so unyielding? Thus, the young man ordered one of his wolf beasts, Black Rock Bone Shattering Wolf, go bite him. When he agrees to go with us, then you can let go. The moment this young man gave the order, a huge green and white hibiscus appeared in Gao Feng's hand. The hibiscus's flower swayed. The violent wind blew the young man and his 3-phase far away. Gao Feng planned to give this young man a chance. Thus he did not kill. Otherwise, the violent wind caused by the Diamond X/Fantasy V Breeze hibiscus, it was enough to tear the gold Black Rock Bone Shattering Wolf apart. Gao Feng knew that Lin Yuan wanted to find him, and sensed the location of the ethereal jellyfish's tentacle. Thus, Gao Feng stood in place and took out the ethereal jellyfish's tentacle. It did not move at all. Gao Feng was sure that within 3 hours, before the dimensional rift of the test space opened, Lin Yuan would definitely be able to find him. Through Lin Yuan's perspective, according to Lin Yuan's flying direction, Cicada Cry knew that Lin Yuan was going to find Gao Feng. Seeing Gao Feng's action, Cicada Cry nodded. Under the other party's aggressive pressure, Gao Feng still forgave him. It was enough to see Gao Feng's magnanimity. However, such a character did not need to be polished. There was really no way to achieve great things. Along the way, Lin Yuan could be said to have attracted the attention of the majority of the audience. The other candidates were busy forming teams. They were constantly interacting with each other. Even the leaders of the two teams would communicate with each other. They wanted to merge the teams together to face the exotic beast tied together. But what's wrong with Black? Why did a proper test become like a trip? End of this chapter. Chapter 1649. The Radiance 100 sequence had changed from the original private assessment. It had become a live broadcast for the entire population. The actions of every member of the 100 sequence would be exposed to the eyes of the public. There were only tens of thousands of candidates in total. But Beast Evolution Merchant, Chapter 1649. The Controversy of Black. Please wait a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 1650. The length of these 3 pairs of wings was more than 3 times the original length of Black's wings. As the huge black wings suddenly flapped, Black's speed increased again. Looking at Black disappearing without a trace, Chao Tianlin reached out his hand and touched his big bald head. A little. Beast Evolution Merchant, Chapter 1650. Victory, joy for the world. Defeat, sorrow for the world. Currently typing. Please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 1651. As he spoke, Tian Feng played with the 2 pairs of peanuts in his hands. He gently played with them. There seemed to be something terrifying hidden in the 2 pairs of peanuts. Tian Feng's movements caused the space around him to tremble uncontrollably. It was similar to life energy, but it had a different kind of power. Occasionally, it would be released from the shells of the peanuts. Then it would be sucked back by the thing hidden in the peanuts. Tian Feng loved to play with his sacred source life forms. The other highnesses were already used to it. The Moon Empress glanced at Tian Feng and said in a cold voice, "Why don't you contribute your harvest power? Then, you'll tell us the formula of the harvest power?" Everyone knew that the Moon Empress valued her privacy. What was her sacred source life form? Up until now, no one seemed to know. From Tian Feng's question, the other highnesses knew that Tian Feng would definitely be rebuked by the Moon Empress. The Bamboo Monarch and Tian Feng had been at loggerheads because of Wang Fuxiang. It could be said that there was a huge grudge between them. No man could tolerate someone trying to kill his wife, even if that person was acting for the sake of the country, not even if it was for their own good. The bamboo monarch said, "If Tianfeng is willing to contribute all his harvest power and announce the formula, I can take out 1,000 golden thread emperor bamboo leaves." The bamboo monarch was sure that Tianfeng would not contribute all his harvest power. The bamboo monarch said this to disgust Tianfeng. The bamboo monarch's words made a somewhat dull man at the side. His face revealed an expression of interest. The bamboo leaves shed from the golden thread emperor bamboo. It could be said to be the strongest tonic for wood-type phase. It could enhance the bloodline of wood-type phase. It could even allow non-wood-type phase to obtain the wood-type attribute. It was very beneficial for the dull man's own phase. The dull middle-aged man said, "Old Tian, the bamboo monarch has shown his sincerity. Now it's your turn to perform." Tianfeng was dumbfounded. Tianfeng was dumbfounded. Tianfeng thought angrily, as he looked at the bamboo monarch and perch. "I don't believe that the two of you don't want to know what this kid's phase are. Why? I asked the question in your hearts. Why are you guys targeting me now? You're bullying an honest man, right? Let me tell you, there are people more honest than me." Tianfeng turned to look at Ji Chongdang, who was watching the show. "Chongdang, you should be the most curious about the fey item of the Moon Empress disciple, right? I heard that the Moon Empress disciple knows your little disciple." Ji Chongdang had never expected this. Tianfeng suddenly asked about the Moon Empress disciple's situation. He definitely wanted to know. "I want to know everything related to the Moon Empress. But why the fuck did you suddenly QQ me?" At a time like this, Ji Chongdang knew that whatever he said would be inappropriate. An old bootlicker also needed dignity, especially when his eldest disciple was right beside him. Seeing that Ji Chongdang did not speak, Tianfeng raised an eyebrow. The topic had been changed. "How simple. You people are still thinking about my harvest power? I've given you the power of harvest. How are they going to stock up on resources in large quantities?" It could be said that other than the chirping of the cicadas, everyone's gaze was locked onto Gao Feng. The gazes of the other 12 His Holiness gathered on Lin Yuan. After all, the others did not have much to look at. As the chief examiner of the entire assessment, Lu Wenqing had a large number of invigilators under him. 2 invigilators were observing a candidate. They recorded all the information of the candidate in detail. These invigilators had the right to write down comments for the candidate. After these comments were done, there would be specialized personnel who would record and verify them. Finally, they would be summarized to Lu Wenqing. Therefore, Lu Wenqing did not need to keep an eye on people during the assessment. Lu Yifan was the 3rd Radiance envoy. He was originally staring at the 1100 sequence members, who were teleported to the assessment venue. In the end, he unexpectedly noticed that Black was extraordinary. He also started to stare at Black. Lin Yuan, who was flying in the air, did not know. Unknowingly, he had already attracted the attention of half of the Radiant citizens. However, these attention were obtained. Not all of them were good comments. "June, what's going on with Black? He keeps flying here and there. So many people are cleaning the ground. But I feel that Black does not respect the 100 sequence assessment." Saint Heart White Tiger. "Upstairs, please go take a look at the post. It has been analyzed. Now smart people are rushing to the central area. Rushing to the central area is the most correct choice." "Liu. But didn't they say that the closer to the central area, the gentler the terrain? The direction that Black is flying in is not the central area at all. Instead, it seems to be flying to the edge." "Blindfish. I say, can you guys not be in a hurry to express your opinions? Everything will wait until the dimensional rift opens. I hope that Black can stay away from the crowd. That way, when facing the exotic beast tide, Black can show his true strength." Lin Yuan did not know about the discussions and controversies on Star Web. If Lin Yuan knew about it, Lin Yuan would be very happy, because whether it was a good discussion or a bad one, popularity was always a good thing for Lin Yuan. It was not because Lin Yuan wanted to be famous, but after Lin Yuan logged out of Star Web, the more popularity there was, the more powerful his power of faith would be. When the Radiance 100 sequence was over, the matter would come to an end. Lin Yuan planned to go to the Holy Wood mystic realm of the Divine Wood Federation first. Then he would let the Sky City rise to the sky of the Divine Wood Federation, to control the entire agro-pattern road. After doing all this, Lin Yuan wanted to go to the Swamp World's East Swamp Palace. On one hand, it was to obtain some precious source-type items and sacred source life forms. On the other hand, it was to find what Morbius needed. Lin Yuan had already sensed it. He was getting closer and closer to Gao Feng's position. According to Lin Yuan's estimation, he had been flying for at least 2.5 hours. During this period, about every 15 minutes, Lin Yuan was about to use spirit injection on himself. Firstly, flying consumed spiritual power. Secondly, the source sand wanted to create a lot of sand in the land. To keep up with Lin Yuan's flying speed, the consumption of spiritual power was obviously faster. Just when Lin Yuan saw Gao Feng's figure, there was already a group of examinees. They found the relatively central area. When these examinees arrived at the central area, a conflict immediately broke out. Several examinees were killed in the conflict and left the test venue. The intense conflict this time was for the Radiance 100 sequence test. It brought about the first small climax. In the forum, it was finally not all posts discussing black. The current heat seemed to have shifted to this conflict. Chapter 1652. Seeing this conflict, the third-ranked Radiance envoy Wang Yifan nodded. All the candidates were geniuses. In the face of a good opportunity, it was hard not to fight for it. Instead, he chose to believe in one person. Therefore, fighting was the best way to solve this problem. When someone established his dominance, he controlled the right to speak. Only then would the central region calm down. Soon enough, the Radiance 100 sequence number 97, Li Nao, took control of the situation. Li Nao said immediately, "Out of everyone here, I am the strongest." Another power offense class spirit chi professional with support abilities. I can help detoxify the poison. It's effective against the fire poison of the abyssal demons, the acid poison of the alien insects, and the corrosive poison of the underground creatures. You won't be able to compete with me. Why don't we unite now and build the fortifications while waiting for the others to arrive? After all, Li Nao was a former Radiance 100 sequence member. Previously, he was the target that the examinees looked up to. He already had a certain level of prestige. In addition, Li Nao had proven himself through his strength. The 53 people present could only agree to Li Nao's request. Right now, although Li Nao was being polite with his words. However, Li Nao wasn't gentle at all when he made his move. He used his main fei, the Rotten Spot Heavenly Dog. He had killed 3 of his most advantageous competitors. If someone were to sing a different tune, Li Nao would definitely not be stingy. Thus, after someone took the lead to express their agreement, the other candidates present all chose to join Li Nao's team. After getting everyone's response, Li Nao spoke again. "Since everyone agrees, let's make an oath. Everyone here has comprehended a willpower rune. But I don't need you to swear with a willpower rune, so you don't have to be nervous. Everyone, swear on the glory of being a candidate of the 100 sequence. You must not betray your teammates within 3 days from the start of the assessment. At the same time, acknowledge my leadership and command. Otherwise, in order to ensure that no one will disturb the construction of the fortifications later, we will have to make sure that no one will disturb us. I will eliminate the unstable factors in advance to ensure everyone's safety." Li Nao's words were really beautiful. Everyone was trapped in these words. Everyone could see that Li Nao obviously wanted to occupy the land and become the king, ruling over the central region. However, in Li Nao's words, it sounded like it was to protect everyone's safety. In the Spirit Lock spatial zone, swearing with a willpower rune was effective. No one would easily swear on a willpower rune. Li Nao was very smart and didn't ask for this. However, under everyone's watchful eyes, he swore on the honor of the Radiance 100 sequence. Who could betray an oath? Betraying the oath was tantamount to tarnishing the glory of the candidates in the 100 sequence. How could a person who had forsaken glory be acknowledged? Moreover, Li Nao had already thought of a way out. Do not betray your teammates for 3 days. In other words, after 3 days, when the test space shrank, Su Xiaoshu would have to wait. They could attack their companions. At first, no one was willing to accept Li Nao's proposal. Unfortunately, the situation was stronger than them. If they did not lower their heads, they would be eliminated. But then these examinees changed their thoughts. They were the first batch of people to reach the central region. If he followed Li Nao, he would be considered as an elder. In the end, he would definitely be in the core area of the circle. The smart ones were the first to raise their hands and make an oath. The first choice was to listen to him. Li Nao said, "In a while, you will be in charge of arranging for the others to build the fortifications." When the first person heard this, a smile immediately appeared on his face. When the others saw that they could obtain such benefits by responding to Li Nao first, they couldn't help but respond one after another. The first group in the core area was now officially established. Looking at those examinees who had already started to build the fortifications, Li Nao's face revealed a trace of a grateful smile. Li Nao felt that he was very lucky to have the opportunity to be the first to reach the central region. It could be said that the 11 examinees, who were also in the top 100 sequence like him, whichever examinee arrived first, it was equivalent to obtaining the right time, place and people. Right now, there were more than 50 people in his group. Soon more and more people would come to this land and join this group. This was because the number of people in the group was the influence behind Li Nao. This influence would give the new examinees a sense of security and pressure. It would force the examinees to join, even if the other 100 sequence examinees arrived in a while. With the help of so many people, even if they were stronger than him, as long as they didn't want to be eliminated, they could only join. Li Nao felt that as long as the fortifications he built could last for 3 days, he would return to the 100 sequence. Basically, it was already a done deal. There were many posts praising Li Nao on the star web. Li Nao, a member of the 100 sequence who wasn't very famous, was immediately listed. He was at the cusp of the storm. This might be the so-called heroes of the times in the Great Era. One ravine after another was constantly dug out by the phase. The Earth Attribute phase were using their own methods to reinforce the fortifications. Building the fortifications from the inside out was the best choice for positional warfare. With the inside as the core, it would constantly expand to the outside. They would never have to worry about not having enough trump cards. The members of the inner circle would also be able to implement the most effective fire cover for the members of the outer circle. At that moment, Lin Yuan, who was beside Gao Feng, he withdrew the black wings behind him and stood in front of Gao Feng. When Gao Feng saw Lin Yuan, he immediately smiled and said, "Brother Lin, you really made me wait. In another 15 minutes, if a dimensional rift opens beside me, I will probably be eliminated. In another 15 minutes, if a dimensional rift opens up beside me, I will probably be eliminated." Gao Feng slapped his head in annoyance. He was currently in the Radiance 100 sequence test. It was being broadcasted on the star web. It was being live-streamed on the star web. Every word he said could be heard by the audience from his point of view. Oh my God! Lin Yuan had never revealed his identity as black. Would the audience think too much when he called him Brother Lin? His mouth was really a bad thing. Gao Feng didn't know Lin Yuan's perspective at all. How many star web netizens had gathered their attention? At that moment, in Lu Shuang and Poison Beauty's live streaming room, the bullet screen had been flooded by Brother Lin. It flooded the screen. It was the same on the Star Web's forum. Brother Lin? Which Lin? The surname Lin wasn't considered rare. It wouldn't be out of place if it appeared anywhere. However, the surname Lin was related to black. It was simply too extraordinary. It could be said that for the past 6 months, black had been repeatedly compared with a man with the surname Lin. Could it be that Black and Lin Yuan were both surnamed Lin? This was too much of a coincidence. Was there really such a coincidence in the world? Chapter 1653. Lu Shuang blinked a few times in the live streaming room. Lu Shuang became famous because of black. She was the person who paid the most attention to black during this period. Previously, Lu Shuang did not understand black. But in order to make better use of black's popularity, in order to get more traffic for himself, Lu Shuang specially studied black. Lu Shuang was definitely a top black studies big shot. While studying black, Lu Shuang took the opportunity to do some research on Lin Yuan, who had always been compared to black. After studying, Lu Shuang had a very strange feeling. Black and Lin Yuan appeared out of thin air. After appearing, one became the young hero of radiance. The other became the top genius of the younger generation. Although the things they did and the phase they used were different. But Black and Lin Yuan's template, it could be said that they were very similar. Lu Shuang could not help but subconsciously say in the live streaming room. Everyone was puzzled, but they didn't have the time to voice out their doubts. Black and Lin Yuan can't be the same person, right? Lu Shuang subconsciously sighed and started a new rhythm in the live streaming room. In the live streaming room, the neatly organized comments of Brother Lin were finally broken. The audience in the live streaming room began to express their views. Unexpected encounter. I think it should be a coincidence. Black's surname is also Lin, or the other contestant called wrongly. Yen Wu. Can anyone go and verify if the phase Black and Lin Yuan used are the same? If not, Black and Lin Yuan can't be the same person. One person's fei pool can't have that many. Mo's hang blossoms. It seems that Black flew so far to the dimensional rift that is about to open just to find another contestant. If Black wants to fly back, it will definitely not be enough without 3 hours. Is Little Song finished today? Doesn't Black consider his own situation? What if the dimensional rift suddenly opens? I really don't understand. The bullet screen was full of discussions. As for Lu Shuang, she had already seriously analyzed Black's actions. Black went to find another contestant. It could be said that it spanned half of the assessment venue. At the same time, Black seemed to know where this contestant was. In the process of looking for this contestant, it could be said that Black never took a detour. Of course, all of this was not the main thing that Lu Shuang was currently investigating. Lu Shuang did not believe that Black would participate in the assessment of the 100 sequence. He had no intention of becoming a 100 sequence member. Lu Shuang, who had seen Black's strength, felt that since Black had the confidence to do so, Lu Shuang wouldn't be surprised. They definitely had the ability to protect themselves in the dimensional rift. At this moment, Lu Shuang's mind was still on the word Brother Lin. Lu Shuang had a premonition that Black and Lin Yuan, they might really be the same person. 9 out of 10 young prodigies would be able to do so. Both of them were high-profile people. Black and Lin Yuan had been keeping a low profile. He didn't even respond to this topic in public. Black and Lin Yuan's personality were completely different. It could be said that they were surprisingly similar. Lu Shuang intended to be the first person to grasp this point. He thought about it. Lu Shuang gritted his teeth. He decided to hold a lucky draw. I don't think there's such a coincidence in this world. Black and Lin Yuan are definitely the same person. I'm going to organize a lucky draw. Everyone is welcome to participate. The rules of the lucky draw are for everyone to vote. Are Tu Hei and Lin Yuan the same person? I'll pick a bronze/flawless fei and send it out. In order to stir up the atmosphere, Lu Shuang was very generous. A bronze/flawless fei's price was often as high as 6 digits. A few $100,000 radiance dollars was a wealth that an ordinary person couldn't accumulate in a lifetime. Hundreds of thousands of radiance dollars was a wealth that an ordinary person could not accumulate in their entire life. But now, Lu Shuang was using it as a lottery benefit. This undoubtedly aroused the interest of the audience in the live streaming room. They had to follow the host first before they could join the voting. It was now the most popular time for Lu Shuang's live streaming room. It had been a short 3 minutes since Lu Shuang started the lucky draw. Lu Shuang's live streaming channel had skyrocketed to 7.6 million fans. It made Lu Shuang's face immediately reveal a bright smile. A large number of Star Web viewers began to place their bets. No one didn't want to be blessed by luck and get such a good thing for free. After a period of voting, Lu Shuang discovered almost 99% of the viewers in her live streaming room. They didn't think that Black and Lin Yuan were the same person. The atmosphere in Lu Shuang's live streaming room was fiery. It was the same for Poison Beauty. However, Poison Beauty and Lu Shuang had completely different views. Poison Beauty had encountered Black 3 times in a row. In the 3 fights, Poison Beauty relied on herself. She made Black reveal 4 fays. She added the other 2 on the internet. The fays that Black possessed were already more than other spirit chi professionals. Lin Yuan and Black had fought with Chen Hongfeng before. Lin Yuan had only used 1 attack to defeat Chen Hongfeng with a red ray of light. Black had encountered Chen Hongfeng when he was climbing the tower. He had fought with Chen Hongfeng for a long time. Because of this, he had been injured. If Black had Lin Yuan's ability, he would have fought with Chen Hongfeng. Why not? Black had fought with Lin Yuan and Chen Hongfeng. The time difference was definitely not more than 2 months. Most ordinary people on Star Web agreed with Poison Beauty's point of view. However, Poison Beauty and Lu Shuang didn't recognize Gao Feng. It didn't mean that no one in the audience watching the live streaming could recognize Gao Feng. Gao Feng was the young master of a top faction. Anyone who could be on the side of a rising faction. It was impossible for anyone not to know Gao Feng. As for those veteran factions and top faction disciples who participated in the Nix assembly, they also knew the identity of Gao Feng's disciple. For Gao Feng to call him Brother Lin, apart from the Moon Empress disciple, Lin Yuan, there could be no one else. Oh my god! It turned out that Black was Lin Yuan. Those who knew what was going on were instantly stunned. But they had been trying to suck up to Lin Yuan. It could be said that they had more or less attacked Black on Star Web. What kind of behavior was this? They had been trying to please someone. Instead, they had slapped that person's other identities. The younger generation of these veteran factions and top faction disciples couldn't help but shiver. Fortunately, the matter had passed, and Lin Yuan had never pursued it. But those comments that had been published, they had all been put on Star Web's front page in order to attract Lin Yuan's attention. They had foolishly been placed on the front page of Star Web. At the thought of this, everyone couldn't help but hurriedly publish what they had published. The comments about attacking Black had been deleted. Most of the young talents were high profile. Many of the young disciples of veteran factions and top factions ran their own platforms on Star Web. They would pick some rare spiritual ingredients or give fays to their fans when they were free. Therefore, these people's Star Web fans. It wasn't less than those Star Web live streamers. Chapter 1654. Right now, if there was only one person who had deleted the comments about Disneyland, then it would be a miracle. It was not enough to attract attention. However, there were simply too many people who deleted it. Such a situation was immediately discovered by someone with an eye. In an instant, the situation became a topic. It was posted in a thread. It caused the heat to keep brewing. More and more people realized that things seemed to be a little off. Lin Yuan, who was standing beside Gao Feng. He did not expect Gao Feng to address him as Brother Lin. Lin Yuan knew that Gao Feng did not mean it. Lin Yuan did not mind it. Just like the silver mask, he had to remove it today. Gao Feng gave Lin Yuan an apologetic look. Gao Feng knew that it was best for him not to say anything at this moment. Otherwise, any response from him would be overly interpreted. Lin Yuan was about to speak. Suddenly, a dimensional rift opened in the sky above Lin Yuan and Gao Feng. The originally clear sky suddenly darkened. The rift was like a black and red scar that constantly twisted and tore in the sky. According to the size of this dimensional rift, Lin Yuan immediately judged that this dimensional rift should be at the pinnacle of Class 1. It opened in the sky and not on the ground. This meant that this dimensional rift could not be an underground dimensional rift. No water flowed out from the dimensional rift. It could not be a water-world dimensional rift either. Logically speaking, after a dimensional rift formed, it would brew for a period of time before spitting out an alien beast tide. However, the dimensional rift above Lin Yuan's head did not do so. This dimensional rift was like eating 250 kilograms of croton. It spat out a large number of alien insects with ferocious momentum. It could be said that from the appearance of the dimensional rift to the spitting of the alien beast tide, it happened in the blink of an eye. This did not conform to the pattern of the emergence of the alien beast tide. The Star Web's test venue could be adjusted at will. For example, the dimensional rift that suddenly opened. Without giving people time to prepare, it immediately spat out an alien beast tide. It made these dimensional rifts extremely dangerous. Gao Feng saw the densely packed alien insects. They were pouncing toward him and Lin Yuan. He did not even summon his Fae. He just subconsciously looked at Lin Yuan. Among all of Gao Feng's Faes, it was the only Fae with some combat power. Only the breeze hibiscus. However, the breeze hibiscus was a support Fae. In front of the massive bug tide, it was completely useless. Once the alien insect found its target, it would immediately explode. They would immediately become ferocious and fight to the death with their target. As an alien insect that would treat its companions as food when they were extremely hungry. All living things were food that the alien insects had to eat after discovering them. Lin Yuan didn't panic at all under the menacing alien insects' attacks. Lin Yuan was like a famous general who remained unmoved in the face of thousands of soldiers and horses. Lin Yuan knew about the netizens on Star Web. He had always been curious about his phase. Lin Yuan did not want to deliberately hide it. It was just that when they were battling on the heaven stairway, he had never met an opponent strong enough to force him to summon it. In the face of the insect tide, he could make many choices. For example, he unfurled his wings made of day and night spirit silver feathers. Then he carried Gao Feng and flew into the sky. It was just that once he did so, his direction of flight would guide the trajectory of the insect swarm. It was considered as using an external force to disrupt the original course of the test. To many examinees, this was extremely unfair. Therefore, he gave up this option. Lin Yuan did not intend to summon Red Thorn now. Red Thorn's strength had increased to Platinum 3/Fantasy V. It was a pinnacle 6-winged demon that was only one step away from becoming an 8-winged demon. It was Lin Yuan's trump card. It was impossible for Lin Yuan to reveal it easily. If Lin Yuan really summoned Red Thorn now, given Red Thorn's strength, it could easily surround and kill a Class 5 demon that was equivalent to a Diamond Fae in the Sea of Flowers. Class 5 demons would only appear in Class 3 and above dimensional rifts. After Red Thorn appeared, the test space that constantly opened dimensional rifts would become Red Thorn's cafeteria. It would become Red Thorn's cafeteria. Facing the alien beast tied in front of him, Lin Yuan had to control a Fae and display a method. At the same time, this method must not affect the insect tide's movement route. At that moment, the insect tide was less than 20 meters away from Lin Yuan and Gao Feng. The audience on Star Web sensed this scene. They could not help but roar. Among 100 ordinary people, there might only be 3 to 7 spirit chi professionals. In other words, most of those who logged on to Star Web were ordinary people who were not even spirit chi professionals. These ordinary people did not have the opportunity to face the insect tide at such a close distance. Mina sang, "These alien insects are really frightening me to death. My husband is going to be eaten into dregs by the insects. Guren, this feeling is so great. Why am I not a spirit chi professional? I don't have the talent of a spirit chi professional. Happy morning. I have been unhappy with Black for a long time. Did Black's cerebellum suddenly shrink? It can't move, or is it scared silly? Didn't Black use the Sea of Flowers to fight against the alien insect dimensional rift in Millstone Town? It could do it back then, so why can't it do it now?" The alien insects were getting closer and closer to Black. They were so close that they could jump onto Black's body with a light leap. At that moment, the ground suddenly shook. A quicksand ravine lay in between Black and these alien insects. It drew a clear dividing line on the ground. Those alien insects that leaped up were all knocked back by the splashing gravel in the ravine. The entire land instantly turned into boiling quicksand. A pinnacle class 1-dimensional rift's insect tide was forcefully stopped just like that. This scene stunned everyone who saw it from Black's perspective. Everyone had always known that Black had a sand elemental life form. However, they did not expect this sand elemental life form. It was actually able to control such a huge amount of yellow sand. Before everyone could exclaim in surprise, they saw the surging yellow sand. Suddenly a castle was erected. The gravel constantly assembled. It made the shape of the castle become even more exquisite. It was as though there was something inside the castle supporting the structure of the castle. After the appearance of the castle, the boiling yellow sand stopped. Only the sand flow below the castle was still surging violently. It pushed the castle into the sky. Those alien insects wanted to climb up the yellow sand castle. However, they were all slid down by the quicksand on the surface of the castle. The originally boiling yellow sand became compacted. The castle completely isolated the aura of flesh and blood. After a long time, the insect tide that could not climb above the yellow sand castle finally ignored the existence of the castle. They finally ignored the existence of the castle and rushed into the distance. The scene of the yellow sand castle and the insect tide coexisting in the sky. Or rather, it was Lin Yuan's method. The audience instantly lost their ability to think. Chapter 1655. Then the anti-fans. It was as if he had returned to the first time he saw Black beating the celestial stairway. He wanted to see what other spirit chi professionals used in battle, or they would conform to the rules. Otherwise, he would at most be evaluated as valiant. But every time Black used his ability, it was just too shocking. A castle that occupied an area of at least 500 square meters stood in the air. The quicksand below blocked the path of any insects. In the end, the alien insects were helpless. He chose to ignore the existence of Yellow Sand Castle. There had always been a legend on the star web about Black protecting Millstone Town from the insect tide. They were also facing the insect tide, but Black's methods were different from before. The Sea of Flowers had turned into a castle made of yellow sand. But no matter what method he used, it allowed Black to be safe and sound when it faced the bug wave. Previously, there had been a lot of discussions about Black on the star web. In the early days, Black had been the star fae. It had always been that plant source-type life form that could rapidly expand the Sea of Flowers. Plenty of creation masters started to post as well. He analyzed the plant-type source-type life form. Even Master Duanli, who had been paying attention to Black. They even dug up their graves and hacked the previous battle video. He wrote an analysis of Red Thorn's abilities. In the end, Master Duanli's answer was, Black's plant-type source-type life form had special abilities. When their strength reached a certain level, they could obtain energy by hunting alien insects. Thus, they spread the Sea of Flowers. Only then would they be able to maintain a delicate balance when facing the ferocious insect tide. If he wanted to start it, he would need a large number of insect corpses as raw materials. Lin Yuan had not read Master Duanli's analysis of Red Thorn. If Lin Yuan had seen this, he would have given Master Duanli a round of applause. The battle against the insect swarm outside Millstone Town. Due to the dimensional rift, all electronic devices had malfunctioned. There were no videos or recordings as evidence. Yet, Master Duanli was able to analyze so many things. It was enough to show Master Duanli's abilities as a Class 4 creation master. Everything Master Duanli said was correct. However, Master Duanli was analyzing Red Thorn's version 1.0. At that time Red Thorn's rank was only at the bronze rank. He had yet to fuse the willpower rune and become a fantasy breed. And now Red Thorn had gone through several evolutions. His strength had reached Platinum 3/Fantasy 3. They wouldn't need Master Duanli's bug corpses to fight the bug tide. The Eye of Relinquish was Red Thorn's energy reserve. Every Eye of Relinquish could produce a sea of flowers that spanned a square kilometer for Red Thorn. Ever since Red Thorn entered the mouth of Relinquish, it had split into 3. The number of Eyes of Relinquish had already reached 324. If Red Thorn wanted to, it could instantly deplete the Eye of Relinquish's energy reserves. The area of the Sea of Flowers expanded to more than 300 square kilometers. Red Thorn had spread out a Sea of Flowers. It could be defined as an AoE skill that combined both attack and control. For a fantasy breed fae, such an attack range was extremely powerful. It could be said that it was completely out of the ordinary. As of now, Lin Yuan had not heard of any fantasy breed faes. It could spread its attack range so far. Even those poison-type faes that were adept at area of effect attacks would not be able to withstand it. Since the poison had drifted so far, it should have dissipated long ago. At the same time, the Star Web's creation masters speculated that Red Thorn was a plant-type source-type life form. What he said before was indeed correct. But saying that now was already wrong. At this moment, Red Thorn had completely become a fairy source-type life form. He was only one step away from achieving the 8 Wings bloodline. Among the known fairy source-type life forms, there was no need to worry. It was enough to be called the peak of the bloodline. After a brief silence, the audience watching this scene. Suddenly, a trace of comprehension appeared in his heart. The name Black itself was like a miracle, because Black seemed to be able to appear at any time and any place without anyone noticing. To create a miracle, Black awesome. Bullet screens flooded the livestream room, but as they swiped, they discovered something to their surprise. The yellow sand castle had a shielding function. Everyone looked at Black's or Gaofeng's. All they could see was the yellow sand castle itself. He could not see the 2 people inside the castle. Your castle is indeed very good-looking, and is not inferior to some Class 4 spirit craftsmen. But you won't let me see him. What's with only showing me the castle? As long as you stay in the castle, you'll be able to survive until the end of the test. You're not going to make us look at the yellow sand castle for 3 days straight, right? At this time, Lu Shuang and Poison Beauty's livestream gathered the most anti-fans. It immediately blew up. Walk fuck. What's there to see? I've just had fun for 5 minutes, and you're forcing me to enter Sage mode? Interesting soul. Hehe. If the 100 sequence tests live broadcast is free, I'll ask for a refund. From now on alone, I'll wait for another half an hour. If it's still like this, I'll look at other perspectives. Black Pill. I suggest you go and look at Li Nao's perspective. The fortifications in the central area have been set up, and the team has expanded to more than 700 people. It's currently the team with the largest number of people, and it's occupying the best position. Don't waste time here. The main purpose of Lu Shuang's livestream was to livestream anti-fans. She wanted to have a one-sided collaboration with Black to increase her reputation. Brother Black, what the hell are you doing? Lu Shuang knew very well that if Black kept staying in the Yellow Sand Castle, she would only livestream anti-fans' perspectives, and her popularity would definitely drop. However, if she did not livestream anti-fans, she would not be competitive. Seeing the bullet screen from the viewer named Black Pill on Star Web, Lu Shuang immediately muted Black Pill. Then she kicked him out of the livestream room. Damn it. Do you think the number of viewers in my livestream is not dropping fast enough? It had only been a few minutes. The number of viewers in her livestream room had dropped by 1/5. This is too fucking realistic. Lu Shuang looked at the current Star Web livestream room's popularity ranking. She found that her livestream room's popularity had dropped to 4th place. The top 2 livestreams were from Li Nao's perspective. Lu Shuang thought for a moment, and decided to analyze Black's sand-type source-type life form. She wanted to stall for time. If Black and Gao Feng continued to hide in the Yellow Sand Castle, she would also livestream Li Nao's perspective. If she couldn't win, she would join in. It wasn't embarrassing. You must be very curious about Black's sand-type source-type life form. What grade is it, and how strong is it? Why is the range of the skill so large? Lu Shuang's question could be said to be the question in the minds of the livestream viewers. The range of the yellow sand surging just now was definitely more than 5 square kilometers. It had instantly turned a hilly area into a desert. This kind of power erupted in an instant. Chapter 1656. It didn't seem like something a fantasy breed Fae could do. Li Nao didn't care about what the bullet comments were saying, and continued speaking. It's still my previous deduction. Black Spirit Chi Professional can't reach A rank. This sand-type source-type lifeform strength is at most Diamond X/Fantasy V. It was a national live broadcast on Star Web. The Radiance Federation's holiness definitely had to consider the contestants' privacy. Therefore, they blocked all probing abilities from the audience. To put it bluntly, they could only use their vision to see the scene. They couldn't use their spiritual energy and soul power to observe and perceive like usual. This made even high-class creation masters could only rely on the Fae's ability to analyze the Fae. This was also why the Radiance Federation's holiness would be at ease to give the Freedom Federation and the Azure Federation's envoys the reason for issuing temporary Star Web cards. The annual Radiance 100 sequence assessment. There were a large number of Radiance Federation's prodigies of the right age who participated. These people's information, they couldn't just let the other federations have it. Most people were discussing Li now on the Star Web forum. But now Black's popularity rose again. With the strength of a single person, the topic of discussion was suppressed by a team of more than 700 people. Lu Shuang saw that the audience's interest in the live broadcast room was piqued. She analyzed very seriously. If I'm not wrong, Black dropped the amber button on the ground at the beginning. It's the main body of this sand-type source-type life form. It's able to use such a large-scale ability and affect a large area of the environment. It's because this sand-type source-type life form was constantly producing sand while Black was flying. This is the only possibility that can explain why it's a fantasy breed fae. It can burst out with the power of a myth breed fae. There were also some words that were already on the tip of her tongue. Lu Shuang pondered for a moment and chose not to say it. Ever since Lu Shuang lost to Lin Yuan in the battle, she had been very puzzled. His Diamond X/Fantasy V Exquisite Rhinoceros Deer and the two Diamond X/Fantasy 4 Walking Witch Snakes had launched an attack. Even a myth breed fae couldn't ignore it. However, Black's strength was at most a Diamond X/Fantasy V Feline fae. Yet he had blocked everything. He even killed the Exquisite Rhinoceros Deer with a single strike. Even if they were both spiritual type faes, the Exquisite Rhinoceros Deer still had the help of two Walking Wizard Snakes. 3 against 1. There shouldn't be any reason for them to lose. But he had lost completely. He didn't even know how his opponent had defeated him. As the person involved, Lu Shuang couldn't figure it out. After seeing Black's other phase, Lu Shuang suddenly understood. The resources used by Black to nurture a fae. It was definitely not something that ordinary people could imagine. The greatest characteristic of elemental source-type life forms was that they needed to be tempered with elemental energy of the corresponding attribute. The longer one was tempered by high-purity elemental energy, the stronger one's abilities would be. Black was able to achieve this with a fantasy breed elemental source-type life form. It was hard for Lu Shuang to guess what kind of pure elemental energy Black normally used to temper his source-type life form. Don't tell me she's an elemental pearl. If that was the case, then what kind of identity did Black have? In short, no matter what, Black's identity was definitely not simple. Lu Shuang felt that if she continued to analyze Black without any scruples, using Black's popularity to hype himself up, he was likely to get into trouble. Thinking of this, Lu Shuang decisively changed her livestream perspective to Li Nao's. In Lu Shuang's opinion, Black in the elemental castle, there was no reason for him to come out again. Li Nao's location was the true main battlefield of the 100 sequence exam. Gao Feng was looking at the surrounding environment in amazement. Gao Feng saw chain swords drilling out of the yellow sand with his own eyes. These chain swords formed the skeleton of the yellow sand castle. The yellow sand was tightly attached to the chain swords. Gao Feng touched it and found that the yellow sand castle was no different from a rock. He tried to pull it out, but not even a trace of sand was dug out. Lin Yuan explained, the grains of sand are pressing against each other. Each grain of sand has about 100 caddies of force. The density between the grains of sand is almost the same as the radium-uranium steel used as a chain sword in the center. We have to stay in the yellow sand castle for 3 days. When the exam is over, we have to go to the central area. Let's go and see how the other contestants are going to deal with the exotic beast tide that is coming from all directions. Gao Feng swallowed his saliva when he heard Lin Yuan's words. Gao Feng was not surprised by Lin Yuan's strength. He was surprised by how strong Lin Yuan was. Gao Feng already had a plan in his heart. The champion of the Nix Assembly's civil and martial ring was not just honor. It was the most favorable proof of his strength. Gao Feng was surprised when Lin Yuan had become so high profile. In Gao Feng's impression, Lin Yuan had always been a person who kept a low profile to the bone. Gao Feng felt that Lin Yuan's current behavior, it was not quite in line with his impression. Gao Feng couldn't help but ask subconsciously, "Brother Lin, are we going there like this?" Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan nodded without hesitation. He said, "Yes, we are really going there like this. However, I want the yellow sand castle to stay in the sky." In the next few days, I need you to help me restore the source sand's spiritual power. Gao Feng waved his hand. He summoned his 2 Diamond X/Fantasy V Spirit Spring Lilies. After the Spirit Spring Lilies appeared, the huge flowers drooped down under Gao Feng's instructions. Then, the spring water formed by Spirit Qi gushed out of the Spirit Spring Lilies. It nourished the source sand under its feet. The source sand absorbed the Spirit Qi released by the Spirit Spring Lilies and maintained its current speed in the sky. At the same time, it continued to create sand in the ground under its feet. Soon a day had passed. The Radiance 100 Sequences test was within this day. More than 14,000 candidates had been eliminated. Apart from these candidates, gathered in the central area, the remaining teams, which had reached 1,000 people, were also trying their best to rush to the central area. During this day, 10 Pinnacle Class 1-dimensional rifts had opened in succession. They thought that the Class 2-dimensional rifts would be at the elementary or intermediate level. However, the Class 2-dimensional rifts were actually at the Pinnacle level. Under the Pinnacle Class 2-dimensional rifts, there were raging Class 4-dimensional life forms. Each of them had the strength of platinum. Unless the candidates used their main phase, it was difficult for them to have a chance to win. However, these Class 4-dimensional life forms did not give the candidates a chance to fight one-on-one. They were all hidden in the turbulent alien beast tide. At any time, they could launch a fatal attack on the exhausted candidates, taking away the candidates' lives. At this moment, the candidates were shocked to find that a big monster had appeared in the sky. Chapter 1657. After a day of life and death struggle. For those who enjoyed the educational resources in school, for the highly sought-after geniuses, surviving in the wild was a little too tough. After all, most of the candidates who came to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence test were studying in Spirit Qi vocational colleges. Apart from participating in some social practice classes in school, they would also participate in some summer camps during the holidays and go on adventures. Otherwise, very few people could experience the opportunity to survive in the wild. For the candidates, surviving in the wild was very simple. At the beginning, they felt that it was very simple. It was just 3 days, and it was fine as long as they could survive. After the items in the phase storage box were checked, they could be burned into the star web. It could be said that apart from a few extremely idealistic people who didn't eat or drink for 3 days, it wasn't that the candidates couldn't survive. Basically, everyone brought a lot of food, due to the high difficulty of the test and the need to see a person's quality. The candidates were even allowed to bring a certain amount of first aid items. It eased the pressure of the healing-type Spirit Qi professionals. The candidates thought that it was very simple, but when they faced the beast tide, in just half a day, the mentality of the candidates changed. In the face of a large-scale beast tide, a single person's strength was really too insignificant. Half an hour ago, the candidates saw the former Radiance 100 sequence 97th. He led a team of 200 people and wanted to rush to the central area. However, before they could join the main team and negotiate with Li Nao, a demon tide rushed over from afar. Even under the cover of firepower, this team of over 200 people persisted for nearly 5 minutes. However, they were still torn into pieces by the sudden demon tide. None of the candidates present were naive enough to think that he was stronger than the 97th sequence of the top 100. This matter made those who had just joined the big team led by Li Nao. The candidates who were still unconvinced understood the importance of relying on the group. Li Nao's management ability was extremely strong and fair. It didn't matter who came or whose acquaintance. Li Nao still advocated for the later teams to stick to the outer layer. This made the outer layer teams have to face the greatest pressure at all times. It was also the easiest to have casualties. However, because their own safety was threatened, when the teams at the edge were facing the other teams that were preparing to join the main team, they would sincerely do their best to help. Only when the new teams joined, the members at the outermost layer would, only then could he reduce the pressure he had to face. In addition, Li Nao's method could also guarantee the benefits of the spirit qi professionals that relied on him first. Only in this way could Li Nao win over people's hearts. Currently, his team had gathered more than 20,000 people. In a small team of 50 to 60 people, Li Nao could kill the chicken to warn the monkey. However, in a crowd of more than 20,000 people, it was inappropriate to do so. Who knew if there was anyone strong enough here? He was also an expert who could restrain him. Moreover, if he was too arrogant, there was a high chance that he would be ganged up on. 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. As long as the large team he led could survive, he would not hesitate. He, who was in the core region, wanted to squeeze into the top 10. There shouldn't be any problems. However, when he saw the huge yellow sand castle that suddenly appeared in the sky, he felt a chill run down his spine. Li Nao's expression was a bit stunned. He had never heard of any dimensional creature that looked like this and could control sand. However, if this was caused by a spirit qi professional, then it would be impossible. How powerful was this spirit qi professional? Also, why didn't the exotic beast swarm attack Yellow Sand Castle? The Outer Circle members had been working hard for half a day, and their stomachs were rumbling with hunger. But they did not even have the chance to eat a mouthful of water or a mouthful of rice. Their mentality was blown up. This Yellow Sand Castle had better not be an enemy. Everyone was now in a group. Otherwise, if it fell from the sky, it would be able to crush at least 5,000 to 6,000 people. At this moment, the audience was speechless as they looked at the Yellow Sand Castle. It had been flying for an entire day. The more they looked, the more they felt that Black was a tourist who had mistakenly entered the 100 sequence test. No matter how shocking this Yellow Sand Castle was, after watching for a long time, it would be boring. However, the examinees who participated in the test didn't have an omniscient view. They didn't know anything. At this moment, the examinees who were standing beside Li Nao, the examinees who were appointed by Li Nao to manage asked, "Big Brother Li, why don't we try attacking this Yellow Sand Castle and see what exactly it is?" "Boss, I feel that before this Yellow Sand Castle makes a move on us, let's not bother about it. After all, the test didn't mention the Yellow Sand Castle, and it doesn't look like it was created by a dimensional creature." Li Nao took a deep breath when he heard that. He was standing in the core region. No matter how ferocious the exotic beast swarm was, it wouldn't threaten his safety. However, this Yellow Sand Castle could fly in the sky. If it flew all the way here and stopped above his head, then he would be in a very passive position. Just as Li Nao was about to give the order to probe the Yellow Sand Castle, an examinee with a broken elbow ran over and said anxiously, "Boss, there are a few Class 4 alien insects in the insect swarm at the outermost west side. A few Class 4 alien insects have mixed into the insect swarm at the outermost west side. The insect swarm in that direction should be a Class 2 insect swarm. We need to send reinforcements in that direction. Otherwise, the number of people over there will be decreasing too quickly." Li Nao lifted his head and took a glance at the Yellow Sand Castle. He made a decision in his heart. In the end, Li Nao decided to send reinforcements to the outermost west side team. Li Nao's character had already been verified when he was selected as a Radiance 100 sequence member. Li Nao was more scheming, but now he was the leader of the team. He had to be responsible for the team first. As for the Yellow Sand Castle, he would wait until something happened. Otherwise, if a direction was exhausted by the exotic beast swarm and couldn't receive reinforcements, the others in this direction would be fearful and lose confidence. It would lower their resistance. There might be over 20,000 members in the team now. However, only one day had passed. The next 2 days were the highlight of the event. Li Nao said to the few people beside him, "Go and scout the various directions around the camp and find out the strength of the exotic beast swarm we are facing. Then, according to the actual situation, transfer a portion of the healing-type spirit qi professionals. Bring them to the outermost west side first and treat the injured." Lin Yuan was in the Yellow Sand Castle and looking at the defensive fortifications formed by the examinees in the core region. He was slightly surprised. Then, he revealed an expression of approval. Gao Feng took a glance at the core region and said, The person leading the team is rather capable. The defensive fortifications are stacked in the shape of an astrolabe, and there are people from other regions in the middle. The fortifications are stacked in the shape of an astrolabe. In the middle there are people from other areas, and there are straight paths in all directions. We'll be able to provide immediate and effective reinforcements. But from the looks of it, this team's aerial defense is rather weak. Chapter 1658. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan nodded. One person had the ability to manage a team of 500 people, and the ability to manage a team of 2,000 people. It was a completely different situation, managing 20,000 people in a short period of time, making others believe in him. He had to be able to see the big picture. Lin Yuan realized that the High Lords who arranged this 100-sequence test, they were definitely overexerting themselves. Among the 5 major dimensional rifts, there were 2 types of dimensional rifts with the strongest offensive and mobility capabilities. One was the Abyss Dimensional Rift, and the other was the Alien Insect Dimensional Rift. The Demon Tide was individually strong. The Insect Tide was extremely numerous. The Abyss Demons and Alien Insects were extremely adept at running. They were the life forms that hunted for food at all times. They were unlike the swamp life forms, underground life forms, and waterworld life forms. They were extremely dependent on the environment. Unless they encountered a stimulus, they did not like to expand in a direction that was not suitable for their survival. If the demons and alien insects did not encounter each other, they would also fight. They would constantly whittle down each other's numbers. This test would definitely end in less than 2 days. Just like what Gao Feng said, the Pinnacle Class 2-dimensional rifts, be it the Abyss Dimensional Rift or the Alien Insect Dimensional Rift, there would be a batch of dimensional life forms with the ability to fly. Among the candidates, there were only a few who had flying phase. They were demons and alien insects on the gold and platinum levels who could fly. The candidates were extremely difficult to deal with. They could only wait for these flying insects and demons to get close. Only then could the phase on the ground attack them. But this kind of attack undoubtedly brought about a lot of losses to the team. Lin Yuan felt that if these candidates wanted to rely on this method to last for 3 days, it should not be possible. At the end of the 2nd day, the strength of the alien beast tide would reach its peak. Lin Yuan was slightly doubtful. This test was indeed a bit too difficult. Why did a test of survival and human nature have to be so difficult? What Lin Yuan did not know was that while he was doubtful, Lu Wensheng, who was standing on the golden stone pillar, was so embarrassed that he wanted to find a place to hide. Ji Changdang also shrunk his neck, and his expression was not very good. He did not care about Lu Wensheng's stare. Night Leaning Moon could not help but ask Lu Wensheng, "Lu Wensheng, how did you do this test? If I remember correctly, you didn't specify 5-dimensional rifts but 4 of each. Why have they all become alien insect dimensional rifts and demon dimensional rifts? When you made the suggestion, I already said that the content of the test was a little difficult. Not only did you not change, you even became worse. What do you mean by that?" Lu Wensheng's initial plan was to open 20-dimensional rifts, but it was different. 10 peak level 1 and 10 peak level 2. However, opening 5 at the same time was completely different from opening 2 at the same time. 5 types of dimensional rifts opened at the same time. After the 5 types of exotic beast swarms met each other, they would attack each other spontaneously. As a result, the pressure the examinees faced against the exotic beast horde would be several times less than it was now. But now when the insect swarms met, they would instantly merge. It was the same with the devil tide. Both sides had such a large base. Even if there was a collision, only the alien insects and demons at the outermost layer would be killed. It would not affect the movement of the insect swarm and the devil swarm. This allowed the insect swarm and demon swarm to charge at the examinees, who had set up their defenses in the center, without slowing down. After hearing Night Leaning Moon's words, Lu Wensheng first apologized. He reflected on himself very seriously. Indeed, the questions I've set this time are a bit difficult. I admit that it was my problem. But changing the 5 types of dimensional rifts into 2 was not my idea. It was Ji Changdang's idea. Lu Wenqing's words caused the other 11 abyssals to look at him. All of their gazes landed on Ji Changdeng. When Ji Changdeng heard this, he felt extremely wronged. Ji Changdeng first looked at the Moon Empress with a fawning look. He then glared at Cicada Cry. Cicada Cry, why is your disciple participating in the Radiance 100 sequence so useless? Didn't you say that he contracted the strongest support type sacred source life form? Cicada Ming was stunned for a moment. He looked at Ji Changdeng with a strange gaze. The Moon Empress disciple is also participating in the 100 sequence test. Weren't you praising him quite happily before? Why are you shooting at me now that there's a problem? My disciple is a pure support type. It's not like you don't know. Furthermore, Lu Wenqing's test was originally a little difficult. Now that you've messed with it, looking at the current situation, there might not even be a need for the third day. The test would be over. However, such a test did not have much meaning. The alien beast tide was just an alchemy stone. The real battle for the 100 sequence would be decided. It also had to be the competition between the members. If the 100 sequence test ended hastily, the first reform would also be declared a failure. The Moon Empress seemed to be the one who proposed this change. The Moon Empress looked up at the yellow sand castle in the sky. Her expression did not change at all. After a while, the Moon Empress said in a cold tone, "This test will definitely last for 3 days. This reform will definitely not end in failure." The other 12 abyssals heard the Moon Empress words. For a moment, they did not understand what the Moon Empress meant. At this moment, the examinees in the core area who were fighting against the alien beast tide, an insect tide, suddenly, their eyes widened. They let out a series of shocked exclamations. The originally frenzied insect tide and demon tide suddenly became chaotic. The ground seemed to have turned into a quagmire. All of a sudden, the abyss devils and alien insects seemed to shrink. They continuously sank into the ground. When these alien insects and demons completely disappeared, everyone was shocked to find out, except for the area where they had built their positions. As far as the eye could see, the ground had all turned into boiling quicksand. The demons and alien insects were fighting to climb out of the quicksand. However, they did not gain anything, and were sunk to a position 50 meters underground by the yellow sand. They were firmly pinned down by the weight of the sand, and could not move at all. Finally, they suffocated to death. This scene was like a miracle to all the examinees. At this moment, Lin Yuan, who had created this miracle, had already overdrawn his spirit qi, and was sitting in the yellow sand castle. Even though Lin Yuan had used spirit injection on himself, the 2 Diamond X/Fantasy V Spirit Spring Lilies were also constantly pouring spirit qi into Lin Yuan's body. However, Lin Yuan did not even have the strength to stand up due to the overdraft of spirit qi. Lin Yuan thought to himself. Without opening the spirit qi imprint, he activated the source sand on a large scale. Even though all of this was just the instinct of the source sand, he was a B-rank spirit qi professional, and the amount of spirit qi in his body, it was really not enough. At this moment, the Moon Empress' mouth revealed a trace of a smile. "Because my disciple is here." Chapter 1659. Hearing the Moon Empress words. The other majesties could feel the Moon Empress' deep trust in Lin Yuan. The Moon Empress had not said these words after Lin Yuan had taken action. Instead, the Moon Empress had already expressed her intentions before Lin Yuan took action. This meant that from the Moon Empress' point of view, Lin Yuan himself would correct the 100 sequence assessment. Lu Wenqing asked doubtfully, "Moon Empress, did you tell your disciple about this situation in advance?" The Moon Empress shook her head. He said, "Just like when our Radiance envoys were at the Myriad Nations Convention. When the situation changes, people always have to be flexible. Xiao Yuan prioritizes the 100 sequence assessment this time, which is why he used this method to relieve the pressure on the other candidates. He didn't even hesitate to expose a part of his strength. Since little Yuan has decided to do this, the entire test will definitely have a good result." At this point, the Moon Empress didn't say anything else. The other High Lords heard the Moon Empress words. From the Moon Empress words, One could sense her trust and admiration for Lin Yuan. Given the Moon Empress' personality, even if it was her own disciple, she wouldn't be able to do anything about it. It would be very difficult to praise him. But now, the Moon Empress had performed in such a manner. This meant that the Moon Empress was extremely satisfied with her disciple. Indeed, the Moon Empress had only accepted disciples for a total of 9 months. During these 9 months, the Moon Empress disciple had caused too many major incidents. Among them, he had even protected the lives of tens of thousands of Radiant Sex creation masters. It protected Hui Yao's roots. If they were to guard Millstone Town under the insect tide, it could only show the heroic actions of the Moon Empress disciple. What he had done afterward showed that the Moon Empress disciple had a deep sense of responsibility toward Hui Yao. It was even possible that among the previous generation of Radiance envoys, some people's contributions to Hui Yao couldn't even compare to Lin Yuan. The High Lords couldn't help but praise Lin Yuan one after another. Lu Yifan, who was the only one standing on the colorful stone pillar, was surprised by Black's performance. As he recalled the words of his junior brother and a smile appeared on his face. It could be said that any powerful spirit chi professional must have a competitive spirit. Among people of the same generation, even if they were teammates, they would also compare themselves to each other. Everyone was constantly improving their strength, afraid of being left behind by their teammates. He was facing a genius of the younger generation before he became a Radiance envoy. Lu Yifan might feel a sense of pressure, but now, he had been a Radiance envoy for so long. Lu Yifan understood the importance of legacies to the Federation. The stronger Lin Yuan's generation was, the more prosperous Hui Yao's legacy would be. Once a federation has a situation where the new and old generations can't take over, it was easy to be targeted. It could be said that Lin Yuan's current actions were extremely powerful. This completely attracted the attention of the Azure Federation and the Freedom Federation's envoys. Although he couldn't see Lin Yuan's Gao Feng, who was inside the Yellow Sand Castle, Gao Feng's face was pale. However, the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission, which had been plotting against them, decided to take a good look. Black was said to be the top genius of the Radiance Federation's younger generation. What was so special about it? This sudden surge of yellow sand covered a large area. It covered an area of 5,000 square kilometers. Even a myth-breed Fae would not be able to launch such a large-scale attack. But this attack looked too weak. It mainly relied on the sinking ability of the yellow sand. It was like simulating a quicksand vortex in a desert environment. Rank 4 alien insects and demons relied on their physical strength. They could struggle in the quicksand vortex for a long time. Because there was no point to hold on to, they would sink. This level of attack was very easy to be targeted. The Freedom 100 was obviously not enough to deal with such an opponent. However, Hui Yao would not only be facing the Freedom 100, it would be Yanling, Kaihua, and Yu Changjian. These three were almost the next Freedom envoys. The Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission had already set the target of the battle as Black. They were going to study Black's situation. On the Azure Federation's side, Lin had already confirmed the specific location of the lion. The person in the Yellow Sand Castle was the lion. Lin's eyes were filled with splendor. At the same time, she was thinking about how to complete the lion's plan. Drag all the people of the Freedom Federation into the water. As a member of the Azure Federation, Lin had been blind before. Her understanding of the world was incomplete. It could be said that her good impression of the Radiance Federation was all from Lin Yuan. Otherwise, Lin would not have any feelings for the Radiance Federation. Lin Yuan was going to take risks for the Radiance Federation and fight against the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission. To deal with the Freedom Federation's conspiracy, the outcome of this battle would either be Lin Yuan's life, or the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission member's death, or Lin Yuan's death, and the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission member's life. No matter what happened, the final outcome would definitely be these two. Lin decided that she might as well go all out. It would also make Lin Yuan's risk even more meaningful. Thinking about this, Lin made a decision in her heart. Lan Sun, who was sitting beside Lin, noticed Lin's abnormal expression. He asked Lin. Lord Azure Envoy, do you have any special discoveries or are you not feeling well? Lin turned around and said to Lan Sun in a serious tone. Teacher, in a while, after the Radiance 100 sequence selection, no matter what decision I make, you have to support me. Lan Sun heard this and knew what Lin was planning. After all, Lin and the Moon Empress disciple had boarded the Fey carriage together. Lan Sun already knew. The Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission had a conspiracy against the Radiance Federation. It was not a secret to him. Lin asked him to support her. Lin should have already decided to stand on the Radiance Federation's side. Lan Sun naturally had no opinion on this. This was because if one had to choose a side to stand on, it should be Lin the Azure Envoy, who had the final say. Lan Sun nodded to Lin and said, I will fully support Lord Azure Envoy's order. Lan Sun didn't know at this moment. His nod had led to such a crazy decision. On the golden stone pillar, where the 100 sequence was located, every 100 sequence member was looking at the scene in the test space with a different expression. Liang, who had been beaten to the 7th position, couldn't help but exclaim. If Black had done something like this during the Radiance 100 sequence ranking, I reckon I will have to drop one more position to the 8th position. Shirsu, who was beside Liang, said, Be confident, you will definitely be ranked 8th. Just this move alone, apart from the 2 people in front, I'm afraid no one will be able to withstand it. I've teamed up with Black before. Black's yellow sand is very agile. He can accurately operate and block attacks for everyone in a crowd of 10,000. Chapter 1660. In order to eliminate the alien insects, the yellow sand area has been expanded to 5,000 square kilometers. But our ranking venue is only 1 square kilometer. By then, the entire venue will definitely turn into quicksand. The intensity of the quicksand will definitely not be on the same level as it is now. The woman, who had managed to maintain her ranking with great difficulty, and was currently ranked 89th in the Radiance 100 sequence, spoke up. You can't look at it like that. Black's sand elemental life form also needs time to create sand. As soon as the woman finished her words, Zhao Xiaoqun retorted. Previously, when Black was flying, you already saw that Black was using a skill to recover his spiritual power. Anyone who wants to change the venue needs time. We are stepping on the ground. The sand elemental is a variant of the earth elemental, and can be directly transformed by the earth elemental. Black is fighting on land with this sand elemental life form, which is no different from me and Long Tao fighting in the sea. Therefore, changing the terrain in the test space will definitely be faster for Black. Besides, this is just one of Black's phase. I agree with Shirsu's point of view. Black can at least be ranked 3rd, or even higher. But to be honest, Black is growing really fast. I seriously suspect that Black is deliberately preserving his strength before. Black's sand elemental life form is more restrained against Lu Jie's insect swarm. The insect swarm's land combat power, the flesh-mincing blade insects, basically has no room to show off. Listening to the discussions around him, Yi Zichen frowned. Lu Jie was standing on the Radiance 100 sequence's first golden stone pillar. He had the same bright smile on his face as when the insect queen recovered from the near-death state. As Lin Yuan's retainer knight, Lin Yuan was humiliated, and Lu Jie was willing to defend with his life. Lin Yuan was praised and Lu Jie felt honored. Others might not know, but Lu Jie knew very well how Lin Yuan had come along the way. It could be said that Lin Yuan had been growing rapidly. At the same time, he had been hiding his strength. Even as Lin Yuan's retainer knight, Lu Jie did not know how strong Lin Yuan was. Until the battle between Lin Yuan and Zhong Zhe at the Nyx assembly. Only then did Lu Jie understand Lin Yuan's hidden combat power. It made Jie feel an unprecedented sense of urgency in his heart. It could be said that the other Radiance 100 sequence members were looking up to him. He had been painstakingly following Lin Yuan's footsteps. As for his own growth, be it the source-type life-form cocoon of evolution. Furthermore, the insect queen had mutated under the effects of the blade queen bee's mental toxin, obtained the ability to control insect-type carcinoma phase, or the cocoon demon embryos that he had just obtained. His growth could be said to be thanks to Lin Yuan. Lu Jie's only wish in this life was to protect Lin Yuan for the rest of his life. They would fight alongside Lin Yuan until the end of their lives. Perhaps at that time, he would be so dazzling that he could dazzle the entire origin world. I just need to be a star by Lin Yuan's side to set off his brilliance. Originally, the viewers on Star Web were scolding him for participating in the 100-sequence assessment. It was like a vacation. The scene that had just happened made everyone who had such a thought. All of them shut their mouths. On the Star Web, Black's popularity exploded. The audience watched the assessment of the 100-sequence for a whole day. His interest was slowly diminishing. When the core region faced the bug tide, the audience was terrified. But after fighting for a few hours, the situation was still the same. It was like a person repeatedly playing a tower defense game for a few hours. His interest would always diminish. The Star Web traffic didn't decrease by much, but there were indeed a lot of people logging out of Star Web. After eating and sleeping, they didn't log on immediately. It was no wonder. In the assessment venue, the candidates participating in the assessment needed to eat. They might even be tired for a whole day. When someone was changing shifts, they would let their companions help them watch for a while. They would take a nap for 1 or 2 hours to replenish their stamina. The bullet screen in the major live streaming rooms wasn't as crazy as it was at the beginning. Lu Shuang, who was originally live streaming, couldn't even see the bullet screen clearly. But now there were times when a bullet screen, it could stay on the screen for more than a second. But in the assessment venue, the surging yellow sand had caused a shocking change. It had once again awakened the enthusiasm and vitality of the audience. Hee-hee-ah, my husband is so awesome. I won't be a male mother in the future. Black, please come and spar with me quickly. Naming is so difficult. Fuck. What did I see? So many alien insects and demons were wiped out? How did Black do it? Silence, what's going on? Black killed all the alien insects and demons? Why do I feel that Black is so much like an NPC in the assessment? Things remain the same, but people change. I think the audience upstairs knows the truth. Black looks like an NPC. I previously said that the person Black brought along would definitely become a 100-sequence member. My guess was right. Black has the ability to directly choose 9 people and guarantee entry into the 100-sequence. Agate Orange, don't talk nonsense. Gao Feng is the young master of a top faction. Even if he isn't necessarily stronger than Black, he doesn't need someone to bring him along if he wants to become a 100-sequence member. Lu Shuang didn't have the right to speak about the source sand. After all, Black hadn't used the source sand when fighting against Lu Shuang. However, Poison Beauty had something to say. This was because Poison Beauty had once been tightly gripped by Huang Sha's large hand. Then she had sunk into the quicksand. Poison Beauty was most familiar with the suffocating feeling of the quicksand squirming and squeezing. The discussion on Star Web was in full swing, but Lin Yuan realized he couldn't control the current situation by relying on the source sand alone, even if Gao Feng was constantly restoring his spiritual power. At the same time, he was injecting spiritual power into the source sand. If he wanted to use the source sand to control the 10 Pinnacle Class 1-dimensional rifts and the 10 Pinnacle Class 2-dimensional rifts, it would be too much. It was simply too difficult. The best way was to use Red Thorn. This was because Red Thorn needed an energy supply to grow the Sea of Flowers. It was the alien insect's flesh. The alien insect's flesh was the best source of energy supply for the Sea of Flowers. There was no need for Lin Yuan to provide additional spiritual power. However, the source sand was different. Fortunately, with the yellow sand castle's cover, the people outside couldn't see the situation inside. Lin Yuan simply waved his hand and summoned Red Thorn. After Lin Yuan summoned Red Thorn, it flew around him twice. Then, it forcefully kissed Lin Yuan's face with its bright red lips. It let out a crisp sound. Lin Yuan's loving interaction with the fairy source-type life form. Gao Feng didn't find it strange. The fairy source-type life form's emotions were more abundant than ordinary phase. Gao Feng, who was looking at Red Thorn, asked himself more than once, "What did I see? 333 pairs of wings." Chapter 1661. The spiritual power in Lin Yuan's body was exhausted. However, the source sand's tumbling did not stop. As the spirit spring lily spat out a stream of spiritual power, it poured into the source sand's body. The source sand that had stopped producing sand made the sea of sand jump. It was not difficult. However, the jumping of the sea of sand was for the abyss demons and alien insects. There was no longer a strong restraining force. Normal and elite demons and alien insects. After walking 100 meters, they would sink into the sea of sand. However, Class 1 alien insects, which were comparable to bronze phase, could effortlessly wade on the sea of sand. However, their speed was extremely slow. In order to resist the sinking of the sand flow, a Class 1 alien insect or demon could only move a few dozen meters per minute. The Level 2 alien insects and demons with silver tier strength were not much faster. The limit of a minute was about 300 meters per minute. It was not as fast as an ordinary person's running limit. However, Class 3 and 4 alien insects and demons could almost ignore the influence of the yellow sand on their bodies. They could move freely in the sea of sand. However, the unforeseen event that had just happened was too shocking. The demons and alien insects at the edge of the quicksand. They saw with their own eyes that their own kind in front of them had fallen into the quicksand vortex. They were ruthlessly devoured by the quicksand vortex. The powerful alien insects and demons could rule the insect tide and demon tide. The Class 4 demons and alien insects with platinum strength already had a certain level of intelligence. These Class 4 demons and alien insects hissed. They hurriedly stopped the team that they could control. However, due to the consecutive opening of the pinnacle Class 2-dimensional rift, there were many Class 4 demons and alien insects that were spewing out. This caused the Class 4 demons and alien insects in front to stop their pace. However, the demons and alien insects at the back did not know and rushed forward. They pushed the demons and alien insects in front of them into the yellow sand. In the yellow sand, the demons and alien insects with the strength of Class 1 and above kept their lives. Those below Class 1 had all become corpses buried in the yellow sand. In the end, the alien beast tide was forcibly stopped. At the same time, the crowded environment caused the alien insects and demons to have a fierce fight. This scene was seen by Lin Yuan. It was also seen by the examinees in the core area, who were responsible for scouting the environment. The moment they got the information, the Spirit Chi professionals, who were in charge of scouting, reported the situation to the Spirit Chi sect. He reported everything to Li Nao. He understood that the exotic beast horde had been forced to stop at the edge of the desert by the quicksand. For the time being, there was no clear action. Li Nao immediately said to the candidates who were waiting around him, "The 200 of you are the team leaders that I have specially selected. Each person is in charge of 100 people on a furrow. Now, go and organize people to reinforce the fortifications of the territory. Go to the yellow sand and dig out those insects and abyssal demons. Remove the shell of the alien insect and the bone horn of the abyssal demon. We might as well use these things to strengthen the defense of the territory. In addition, each team will send out 20 people. A total of 4,000 people will work together. Hurry up and gather the other teams heading towards the central area. The beast tide hasn't passed through the sea of sand yet. But look at the pulsation of the sea of sand. It has weakened quite a bit. The pinnacle Class 2-dimensional rifts are still opening. Sooner or later, the alien insects and demons will form an exotic beast tide and launch a great counterattack on us. The more time we have to prepare, the larger the scale of the exotic beast swarm we have to deal with will be. Everyone, we mustn't let down our guard at this time. Mobilize all the healing type Spirit Chi professionals and prioritize healing phase with support type and healing abilities. For the time being, push down the priority of power offense type phase. In such a large-scale battle, the healing type Spirit Chi professionals were the most popular with the least number of people. The support type Spirit Chi professionals had extremely strong functionality. In terms of support, it was often not one-on-one support. Instead, a single person could enhance a group of people. Therefore, they had to consider the entire team. Prioritizing the benefits of the support-type Spirit Chi professionals was undoubtedly the best choice. Although this method was a little unfair. In a battle, they had to rely on the support-type spirit chi professionals and the power offense-type spirit chi professionals. Usually there wouldn't be a lot of complaints. This was because they had the help of a good support-type spirit chi professional. The main targets of benefit were the power offense-type spirit chi professionals who were in battle. Even the power offense-type spirit chi professionals often had to rely on the protection. Under Li Nao's command, the team quickly took action. In this regard, the Star Web netizens gave a high evaluation. Nicholas Zhangqi, Li Nao's ability to adapt to the situation is too strong. Previously, I felt that Li Nao's fortifications were very well constructed. Now it seems that if Li Nao is given some time to prepare, the majority of the troops in the central region will definitely be able to last for 3 days. Going to Beijing, I also think that Li Nao is very powerful. Everyone is here for the assessment. Not only did Li Nao stand out from the rest, but he also managed to grasp the hearts of the people in just 2 days. Although the newcomers are still not convinced by Li Nao, the veterans who have followed Li Nao for more than a day have almost completely obeyed Li Nao's commands. This should be the charisma of a person. Wen Dao Sansheng. You guys keep praising Li Nao, but why do I feel that compared to Black, Li Nao is really not good enough? If it wasn't for Black, the team of 20,000 would have been reduced to less than 16,000 by now under the continuous charge of the exotic beast swarm. Playboy Little Radish. I don't know why I want to laugh so much. Li Nao probably didn't know that the yellow sand castle in the sky and the large area of quicksand were caused by Black. He actually asked people to dig the sand. He dug out those alien insects and demons to build the fortifications. No matter how beautiful Li Nao's performance was on Star Web, the most discussed was still Black, who had just created a big scene. Poison Beauty and Lu Shuang no longer spoke. They just kept talking about Black. Black had shown such strength, and everyone knew that he was powerful. Then he talked about Black all the time. It could be said that with just this move alone, Black was already famous in the Radiance. Black's circle of attention was mainly focused on his heroic deeds among the group of people who were paying attention to the Star Web duel. But now, after passing this Radiance 100 sequence test, Black broke through the circle. He entered the eyes of almost all the Radiance citizens. He had become a real household star in the Radiance 100 sequence. Chapter 1662. At this moment, Lu Wenxing was standing on the golden stone pillar. Based on Li Nao's performance for more than a day, he said, "Previously, I really didn't see that Li Nao had this talent. It's said that heroes are born out of time. This assessment has allowed me to see Li Nao's multifaceted nature that I have never had the chance to show before." Night Leaning Moon also praised him. Li Nao can come to the spirit guards in the future. Nurture him until he has the qualifications to become a deputy envoy. In addition, if Cicada Cry also thinks highly of Li Nao, he can train Li Nao. Let's see if Li Nao is qualified to be the candidate consul of each city. At this moment, he was doing his best to command the troops. Li Nao, who had completed the fortification, didn't know. Because of his performance, he had entered the eyes of the majesties. Gao Feng stared blankly, flapping his wings. Red Thorn stopped in front of Lin Yuan's forehead and kept talking. "Lin Yuan, Red Thorn has not seen you in a long time. Did you call Red Thorn out this time to play with Red Thorn, or to beat up the bad guys?" Fairy source-type lifeforms were simply too rare. Therefore, for most spirit chi professionals, fairies were considered source-type lifeforms. They were all very unfamiliar. Gao Feng came from a top faction and had naturally heard of fairy source-type lifeforms. However, Gao Feng did not have any fairy source-type lifeforms. There had always been rumors that among all source-type lifeforms, fairy source-type lifeforms had the highest intelligence. When it sprouted a pair of wings, it was no different from a normal person's intelligence. When he sprouted 2 pairs of wings, he had already surpassed ordinary people. Gao Feng had heard of fairy source-type lifeforms with 3 pairs of wings. However, according to common sense, the 6-winged demon was a 6-winged demon. His strength should have risen to the level of a creation breed. Gao Feng had once seen his master, Cicada, summon a green creature. A six-winged fairy with long hair that reached her ankles. Gao Feng wasn't a creation master and couldn't see anything. However, the feeling the cicada chirping six-winged demon gave Gao Feng was completely different from the feeling Red Thorn gave him. His master Chan Ming's six-winged demon was clearly stronger. However, Gao Feng felt that the green vine in front of him had red eyes. A cold and beautiful fairy dressed in a strange flowery dress. It had to be more honorable. Gao Feng had chatted with Lin Yuan along the way. They knew that Lin Yuan was still a B-rank spirit chi professional. This was another important reason why Gao Feng was shocked. It was already very surprising that Lin Yuan possessed the six-winged demon. This six-winged demon had gained 6 wings when it was a fantasy breed. It had already broken people's hearts. It was common knowledge regarding fairy source-type life forms. Gao Feng thought to himself. Fortunately, the Yellow Sand Castle could block Red Thorn. Otherwise, the Freedom Federation's envoy would know that Lin Yuan had a six-winged demon. To Lin Yuan, the six-winged demon was nothing. It could be used as a trump card. If there was a two-winged or four-winged fairy in the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission, he didn't even need to summon Red Thorn. He only needed to release Red Thorn's aura. The suppressive power of the bloodline could make a two-winged Yao or four-winged Yao lose their ability to fight. Upon hearing Red Thorn's words, Lin Yuan replied seriously. Red Thorn, what we are going to do next is very important. Listen to me. You need to hatch some spore chambers first. I will let the source sand transport these spore chambers to the corresponding positions. Then, use the spore chambers to spit out spores and form a few sea of flowers according to the arrangement of the spore chambers. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's instructions, Red Thorn felt that Lin Yuan's task wasn't difficult. It didn't summon the Mouth of Relinquish. The Mouth of Relinquish was Red Thorn's main body. With the Mouth of Relinquish, it could use its abilities through the Mouth of Relinquish. It could guarantee 100% of its power. Now Red Thorn would use its own abilities. It might not be able to match the speed of the Mouth of Relinquish. However, things like spraying spores and hatching spore chambers, Red Thorn could do it easily. Red Thorn's vine-like green hair fluttered without any wind. Among the hair, grayish-green spores that looked like a light mist were scattered. These spores grew rapidly in the Yellow Sand Castle. In a short while, apart from the position left for Lin Yuan and Gao Feng, the other positions were filled with miniature spore chambers that were half the height of a person. After the spore cavity of these child ramets grew out, the spore cavity grew out. The quicksand in the Yellow Sand Castle suddenly became restless. The yellow sand swallowed these spore chambers that had just grown out. Through the constantly jumping sand column below, these spore chambers were all transported from the Yellow Sand Castle to the quicksand. Lin Yuan circulated the spiritual power that he had just recovered. The speed of the source sands surging suddenly increased. The sand flow continuously produced these spore chambers in the Yellow Sand Castle. They were buried everywhere in the sea of sand. Immediately after, Red Thorn commanded the spore chambers that the child ramets had specially formed. According to Lin Yuan's request, it sprayed out the spores, in order to allow the spores to quickly take root in the sea of sand. For this, Red Thorn used 14 eyes of Relinquish in a row. The Star Web viewers suddenly realized that there were rows of dark green plants, growing in an extremely regular pattern in the sea of sand. These vine-like plants were very special. They had a certain steel color. At a glance, each vine was very tough. Red Thorn originally wanted to use more eyes of Relinquish. However, it was stopped by Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan said to Red Thorn, Red Thorn, we need to hold on for at least 1.5 days in this sea of flowers. You don't have to use the eyes of Relinquish first. There are many corpses of demons and alien insects below the source sand. I'll send the corpses of these demons and insects to your sea of flowers through the source sand. When the nibbling vines pass through, the mouth parts on the tentacles will scrape as much flesh as possible. Then, through the flesh of these alien insects and demons, the scale of the sea of flowers will be rapidly developed. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Red Thorn hurriedly and obediently commanded the nibbling vines to extend its tentacles into the ground. It found that there were indeed a large number of corpses of demons and alien insects being transported to its feet. Red Thorn itself was a little glutton. Red Thorn naturally would not refuse the food that Lin Yuan had specially delivered to its mouth. Even if Red Thorn was no longer interested in the flesh of dimensional life forms below Class 5. The key was that these things were given to it by Lin Yuan. The nibbling vines first picked the weaker alien insects and demons to eat. With the supply of these alien insects and demon corpses, the area and speed of the sea of flowers rapidly increased. Soon, the sea of flowers formed by the various spore chambers were connected. When the Star Web netizens saw this scene, they immediately recalled when they first heard about Black. That was the content left in their memories. The sea of flowers that instantly spread out could be called Black's signature. Chapter 1663. Back in Millstone Town, Black had used this sinister and terrifying sea of flowers. Upholding Radiance's glory, it had paved the hope of life. It had protected a human town that had automatically formed. This incident had been praised on Star Web. However, due to the dimensional rift, there was no way to record the video. What was heard was often the oral accounts of the Millstone Town residents. Back then, the residents of Millstone Town had vowed. Black's Fae was below Silver. However, they said that this Fae could use its own power to block the insect tide. It had blocked the insect tide from the Pinnacle Class 1 alien insect dimensional rift. This was obviously beyond the scope of common sense. Hence, on Star Web, there were many people who didn't believe this. Perhaps Black had indeed used the Sea of Flowers to protect Millstone Town. It had made a great contribution. However, it was impossible to be so exaggerated. Black was originally the savior of the Millstone Town residents. However, after mentioning Black's feat that night, it was not understood by others. It was even treated as hype. This caused the Millstone Town residents to be anxious. They hurriedly made more comments, and did not even hesitate to use the Ascending Dragon City's city guards. They wanted to use this to prove that what they said was true. This was because the Ascending Dragon guards that had rushed over had also witnessed the Sea of Flowers. However, as a city guard, it was impossible to prove some kind of unofficial private comments on a place like Star Web. Many people did not believe that Black could use a plant-type source-type life form that was below Silver. It had blocked the insect tide from the Pinnacle Class 1 alien insect dimensional rift. However, they still recognized Black's identity as a young hero. After all, not everyone could bravely stand up in times of danger. Later on, in the Star Web duel, Black had also used Red Thorn. However, the tower climbing duel was too small. The size of the entire field was only 200 meters x 200 meters. Even if Red Thorn spread out the Sea of Flowers in such a small area, it would definitely be greatly restricted. In essence, Red Thorn's Sea of Flowers was a kind of continuous area attack. Later on, when Red Thorn became a silver/fantasy breed, Lin Yuan did not let Red Thorn appear on Star Web again. Now those people who had doubted how Black would use Red Thorn to resist the insect tide, they felt like they had been slapped in the face. These Sea of Flowers seemed to have a purpose, as they were connected vertically. With the central stronghold as the core, 8 long ribbons of the Sea of Flowers were formed. The audience did not understand the significance of Black's current cooking, because the audience didn't even notice. The Radiance 100 sequences test this time was a little too difficult. On the other hand, the eyes of the sovereigns standing on the golden pillars lit up. Lu Wenqing said, "Black source-type life form is really special. Look, the vines of these plants are all reaching into the yellow sand, searching for something. The vines have a lot of sharp teeth. When these vines pull out the yellow sand, they bring along a lot of minced meat. Some of the minced meat was mixed with skeletons and the dark red skin of demons. It's obvious that it has formed an alliance with the source sand. I used the corpses of the evil demons and alien insects buried by the source sand as an energy source. These 8 strips of flowers will act as a buffer. When the exotic beast swarm arrives, they'll be automatically split into 9 parts. The Sea of Flowers belt can automatically kill off a portion of the beast tide. It's the same as reducing the pressure on the other examinees. In addition, these 9 strips of Sea of Flowers belt are 1 kilometer away from the core area. After the alien insects and evil demons come out of these 9 areas and converge, there will definitely be another conflict. As long as Black is willing to control it, there won't be any problem for this test to last for more than 3 days. While speaking, Lu Wenqing was glad that there was Black. In his heart, he felt that all of this was too ridiculous. This test seemed to be a little too difficult for tens of thousands of examinees. Because of the special characteristics of Black's 2-phase, it was actually solved. It was just that Black was placed here alone. Black relied on the Sea of Flowers to form a defensive fortification. It might be able to last for 3 days. Lu Wenqing had observed the vines that grew out of the Sea of Flowers. Although he couldn't see the specific grade, however, there was a vine that grew thicker and dragged out a Class 4 horned demon from the sea of sand. After entangling the horned demon, apart from its pair of long horns, it wasn't eaten. The flesh and bones of the horned demon were all sucked into the sharp teeth below the vines. A vine could break through the defense of a Class 4 horned demon. It had to be at least on the platinum level. Moreover, after this vine devoured the level 4 horned demon, it became even more terrifying. It had become a little thicker. This meant that this plant could not only grow by absorbing energy from flesh and blood, he could also use it to strengthen himself. Lu Wenqing found it hard to imagine what would happen if this source-type life form lost control and was thrown into a dimensional world. As long as he was given enough time, he would not be able to do anything. He didn't want to be discovered by the rulers of the other dimensional worlds. In a situation where they couldn't find the mother plant, the entire dimensional world would be devoured by these vines. Li Su, who was with the Freedom Envoys, said to Yu Changjian, "Longsword, Black will be one of your targets this time. Are you prepared?" Yu Changjian was Li Su's caretaker. Therefore, ever since Li Su appeared, Yu Changjian had left his original position. He stood respectfully beside Li Su. Upon hearing Li Su's question, Yu Changjian hurriedly replied, "Don't worry, Your Holiness. Yin Ling Kaihua, and I have a way to deal with this Sea of Flowers before it takes form." The cooperation of the 3 sacred source life forms has reached the 2nd stage. It's impossible for us to lose. At this point, Yu Changjian glanced at Qianyu. He thought of Qianyu's pressure and demands on him, Yin Ling and Kaihua. Yu Changjian said to Li Su, "Your Holiness, Lord Qianyu asked us to drag down a few of His Holiness's disciples during the competition. Including Gao Feng, we already have one of His Holiness's disciples. If we drag down too much, the other party will have more than 3 disciples. We..." Before Yu Changjian could finish his sentence, Li Su interrupted him. "Will you feel pressured?" Speaking up to this point, Li Su looked at Qianyu. After pondering for a while, he said, "Qianyu is the Freedom Envoy leading the Freedom Envoys. Everything will still be arranged by Qianyu. But if anything goes wrong, Qianyu, you will have to bear the responsibility. Freedom Envoys might not be as respected as Radiance Envoys or Azure Envoys, but they still represented the younger generation of the Federation. They had to represent the Federation's younger generation, as long as it did not go against their own interests." Li Su did not want to have any conflict of opinion with Qianyu. Therefore, Li Su directly kicked Yu Changjian's opinion back to Qianyu. Instant update of Beast Evolution Quotient. Please bookmark this site so that you can read it online the next time there's an update. Read the first complete version of the mobile version in advance. Chapter 1664. Qianyu heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Li Su's words. Qianyu was afraid that after Li Su came, she would directly take over his authority. If that was the case, he would lose the arrangement for the next competition. If anything went wrong, he, as the envoy leading the team, would be responsible for it. He had to bear the responsibility, although Li De decided to delegate to himself. But before doing anything, Qianyu felt that it was necessary to greet them. Qianyu asked Li Su softly, "Your Holiness, do you think the Radiance faction has sent the current 3rd-ranked Radiance envoy to preside over the 100 sequence? If I pull down the Radiance emissary, who is ranked 3rd in the competition, Do you think he will walk down the 7-colored stone pillar? You fought with me? When Li Su heard this, he looked at Qianyu with a playful gaze. Li Su never expected Qianyu's appetite to be so huge. Too big of an appetite to eat. It could indeed make him stronger. However, it was also possible that their stomachs would burst, and even the gods would not be able to save them. Li Hua did not intend to express any opinion, and only said one sentence. I will not participate in anything related to the Radiance 100 sequence. In another day, Goddess Lian will also descend upon the Radiance sect. You're the goddess of compassion's caretaker. I hope you won't disappoint her right under her nose. Qianyu, who was originally calm, heard that Her Holiness Goddess Pity was about to ascend to the Radiance sect. He immediately became nervous. Gao Feng looked at the endless sea of flowers outside. Suddenly, a wonderful feeling entered his heart. He told the Spirit Spring Lily to put in more effort and use its skills, Gushing Spring and Spirit Spring activation. At the same time, it would also help Lin Yuan recover the spirit qi that he had consumed. At the same time, he buried a few springs in the source sand that could continuously release spiritual energy. It could be said that what Gao Feng lacked the most was good teammates to show off his talent. Now, it was Gao Feng's first time teaming up with a powerful teammate whose strength matched his. This was the feeling of wholeheartedly supporting his teammates and being carried by them. Gao Feng felt that it was simply too awesome. Lin Yuan continued to issue commands to Red Thorn. Red Thorn, there will be a beast horde in a while. When it passes through the flower belt, you can hunt the alien insects or demons at the edge of the flower belt by yourself. If the sea of flowers is attacked, it can be replenished appropriately. But there's no need to expand the sea of flowers anymore. At the same time, you don't need to use any other skills. When Red Thorn heard that, it lightly nodded its little head. In Red Thorn's opinion, Lin Yuan had issued an order to it. It was to let him eat to his heart's content for a day. At the center of the examination grounds, the examinees in charge of scouting, through its fei, it stared at the endless sea of flowers in shock. The examinee in charge of observing finally thought of something. Black was also in the assessment of the 100 sequence. This sea of flowers was the proof of darkness. The sea of flowers stood on the yellow sand. This meant that the quicksand that had just devoured all the dimensional creatures was also Black's doing. If that was the case, was Black not in the yellow sand castle in the sky? Li Nao was leading a group of healing-type spirit qi professionals to treat the injured candidates. At the same time, he observed the situation of the fortifications. Previously, when Li Nao heard the report, he was afraid that the sand would slide down when he dug the sand. The speed of digging the sandpit was very slow. However, he didn't expect that the sand was like it was alive. It took the initiative to reveal a large number of alien insects and demon corpses for him and the others to use. Li Nao decided to go and take a look. At that moment, a few examinees in charge of scouting personally found Li Nao. They explained the situation to Li Nao. When Li Nao heard that, he looked in the direction of the yellow sand castle with a horrified expression. At the same time, his eyes flickered with deep fear. Black's appearance was good news for those who were at the edge of the formation. It was good news for the examinees who had to constantly fight with alien insects and demons. But for Li Nao, who was the actual controller of the core area, it was a huge threat. Li Nao didn't doubt that at this moment. Black walked out of the yellow sand castle and issued a challenge to him. Black had just saved the lives of the Outer Circle members, and Black's formidable strength. It could easily seize control of this area. If Li Nao was a smart person, he would definitely choose to block the news immediately. He might even be more ruthless and kill the spirit qi professionals in charge of scouting. In any case, the Sea of Flowers was more than 1,000 meters away from his area. The other examinees couldn't see the Sea of Flowers with their naked eyes. Covering up the news of Black's existence could guarantee Li Nao's authority in the team to the greatest extent. However, Li Nao ultimately didn't choose to do so. Previously, Li Nao didn't have the opportunity to lead a large team. But now, he led 20,000 people and survived for 1.5 days. It allowed Li Nao to deeply understand the sense of responsibility as a leader. This sense of responsibility had subconsciously influenced Li Nao to put the interests of the whole as the priority. He was no longer just considering if he could occupy the last 10 spots. He would return to the Radiance 100 sequence and protect the glory of the 100 sequence members. At such a time, everyone was tired. Even if they drank water, ate food, and slept, most of the people were terrified by the ferocious beast tide. When Li Nao was patrolling the outer circle previously, he realized that many of the examinees' eyes were very empty. These examinees didn't think that they could pass the test. Therefore, they didn't have such a strong will to survive. At the thought of this, Li Nao called over the 200 team leaders that he had appointed and said, "Spread the news. Spread the news. That quicksand just now is black. He's helping us resist the beast tide. Outside the quicksand, there is a sea of flowers. Let everyone brace up. We will definitely be able to hold on." Li Nao's words instantly made the eyes of these 200 team leaders light up. Their originally depressed and nervous hearts suddenly gave birth to a surge of courage. They looked at the yellow sand castle in the distant horizon. The 200 team leaders were like arrows that had left the bow. They spread the news to the ears of every examinee. Then, cheers sounded from the camp one after another. Slowly, they gathered into a long river of cheers. If not for the fact that all the spectators knew that this was a harsh test, they would have probably heard the cheers from the bottom of the examinees' hearts. They would have thought that they were holding some kind of celebration. The continuous cheers faintly spread to the yellow sand castle. Lin Yuan and Gao Feng heard it. At this moment, it was unknown who shouted, "Black Bull coins." Then, the sound of the Black Bull coins shook the sand on the ground. When Gao Feng heard the cheers of these examinees, he revealed a smile. However, Lin Yuan didn't smile. Instead, his brows were tightly knitted together. This was because Lin Yuan realized that the beast tide that had stopped at the edge of the sea of sand had moved. Instant Beast Evolution Quotient. Please bookmark this site so that you can read it online the next time there is an update. Read the first complete book in advance. The mobile version is the fastest. Chapter 1665. And after a few hours of preparation, through Morbius True Data, Lin Yuan could clearly see the Class 4 demons and alien insects that managed the entire beast tide were constantly examining the sea of sand and the sea of flowers. Although the alien insects and demons did not gather together, the two sides were still constantly fighting. Every minute and every second, there were a large number of alien insects and demons fighting with each other, leaving the ground full of broken limbs. But these Class 4 alien insects and demons all gathered together. At the edge of the beast tide, they formed a small square formation. These Class 4 demons and alien insects formed a small square formation and were mobilizing the insect tide and demon tide. They attacked the central area from all directions. They were ready to explore the strength of the sea of flowers that had just appeared. Lin Yuan let the source sand surge freely. Under the surging of the beast tide, Lin Yuan discovered the normal and elite demons and alien insects could not go far at all. They would sink into the sea of sand. It could be said that the source sand surged freely and sifted out a large number of low-grade alien insects and demons. But soon, Lin Yuan discovered that something was wrong. If it was like this, then the alien insects and demons that could rush to the central area were at least bronze. The stronger ones could reach gold or even platinum, even if Red Thorn was constantly feeding on it. But in the end, when the examinees rushed to the central area, they had to face the beast tide. Their overall strength would be enhanced. This method went against Lin Yuan's original intention. The beast tide formed by Class 1 demons and alien insects as the basic combat units. It was far more terrifying than the original beast tide, made of normal and elite demons and alien insects. Therefore, Lin Yuan immediately stopped the spontaneously surging source sand. He no longer let the source sand devour those normal and elite insects and demons. At the same time, when Red Thorn was feeding, it would specifically choose those high-level demons and alien insects according to its instincts and taste. Only then could it be considered to have a true adjustment function. The audience in the livestream room watched as the source sand under the beast tide stopped surging. A large number of beasts seemed to have gone crazy. They crazily rushed toward the central area. Facing the beast tide, the power of the Sea of Flowers was officially revealed. These feeding vines that Red Thorn had spawned until now. Beneath the yellow sand, there was still a large number of dimensional creatures that hadn't been eaten clean. Having enough energy supply, basically every carnivorous vine's level. All of them had reached the silver rank. There were even many vines that had been strengthened by eating a large amount of food. His strength could even reach the gold rank. But no matter how strong the Sea of Flowers was, it could not withstand the craziness of the insect tide. These alien insects were not as Lin Yuan had imagined. They rushed towards the center of the Sea of Flowers. Instead, he ignored the Sea of Flowers and prepared to step over them. To these dimensional creatures that had stepped into the Sea of Flowers, Red Thorn didn't hold back when it attacked. However, there were too many alien insects and demons. It was still quite a burden on the Sea of Flowers. Sensing the situation before him, Red Thorn immediately used a few eyes of relinquish. Then, she gestured at Lin Yuan with her small hands, as if she was a little angry. From Red Thorn's point of view, these alien insects and demons, whose highest level was only rank 4, were all rank 4. It was just the lowest level of rations. Now, the rations had rebelled, and even caused damage to the Sea of Flowers. In Red Thorn's opinion, it was a great shame. Red Thorn planned to show these alien beasts in the Sea of Flowers how powerful they were. Lin Yuan, I want to strengthen the Sea of Flowers and then eat them all. Lin Yuan didn't object to this. Instead, he acquiesced to Red Thorn's actions. As a result, Red Thorn immediately secreted a burst of pink spores. It asked Lin Yuan to use the source sand to help transport these pink spores to the Sea of Flowers. After understanding Red Thorn's thoughts, Lin Yuan immediately allowed Red Thorn's request. The source sand quickly sent the pink spores secreted by Red Thorn to various parts of the Sea of Flowers. Then the roots of many carnivorous vines danced. When the pink spores had just grown to the size of a fist, the carnivorous vines wrapped their roots around the small object that the spores had just formed. Then, they fused the roots with this small object. By digesting the alien beasts' bodies, they provided energy for the spores to grow. A large number of low-level alien insects rushed into the Sea of Flowers and were immediately entangled by the carnivorous vines. The tip of the carnivorous vines drilled into the alien insects' bodies through the gaps in the insect armor. Some directly bit through the skin of the demons and drilled into the demons' flesh and blood to eat in big mouthfuls. The carnivorous vines were not the mouth of relinquish and could be like a furnace. Normal and elite demons and alien insects were thrown in. They could immediately be digested and disappeared. Even if the carnivorous vines consumed normal and elite demons and alien insects, it only took over 10 seconds. However, it still needed time. The carnivorous vines had no way to defend against external attacks during the feeding process. These demons and alien insects kept trampling on the carnivorous vines. They attacked with insect fangs, bone horns, acid and flames. Because the carnivorous vines had been feeding on alien insects and abyssal demons for a long time. They had extremely high resistance to the acid in the alien insects' bodies, and the demons' flames that could wither plant phase. But even so, the insect fangs gnawing and bone armor slashing, it still reduced the number of carnivorous vines in the periphery. Time was in a stalemate for a few minutes. In the face of the endless alien beast tide, the god view could be seen with the naked eye. The area of the Sea of Flowers was constantly shrinking, and it was during these few minutes that Lin Yuan was surprised to find out. Those small objects produced by Red Thorn's pink spores, in the blink of an eye, they grew to over 2 meters tall. They formed a strange thorny sphere. No matter how he looked at it, this strange sphere looked like a simplified version of the mouth of Relinquish without the eye of Relinquish. However, this thing was not like the mouth of Relinquish that could be eaten. After these objects grew to 2 meters tall, they still did not stop growing. In the end, they grew to a height of nearly 4 meters. The entire sphere also expanded into a translucent state. On the sphere, it was like blood vessels. There were a lot of pipes bulging out. These pipes quickly spread on the sphere. Finally, it grew out of the sphere. It was connected to every nearby carnivorous vine. The liquid inside the sphere was naturally injected into the carnivorous vine through the pipes. The carnivorous vine suddenly became full of energy. Originally, it would take about 10 seconds to digest a normal and elite exotic beast. But now the time was added up. It would definitely not take more than 3 seconds. It meant that the efficiency of the Sea of Flowers eating had increased by nearly 3 times. The Sea of Flowers was originally forced into a sorry state by the alien beast tide. With the help of these pink spores, they developed into spheres. They quickly recovered the lost land. Chapter 1666. It had completely stabilized the 8 long belts of the Sea of Flowers in the beast tide. In the process of the battle between the Sea of Flowers and the beast tide, the central area had already been fortified. As for the battle between the Sea of Flowers and the beast tide, these members were in the same team as them. The examinees who were studying the battle had no way to discover it. However, the audience on Star Web had a bird's eye view. They were truly facing the battle between the Sea of Flowers and the beast tide. For ordinary people, this battle was like an epic movie. It made those who originally did not believe that the Sea of Flowers could stop the beast tide. He deeply understood why Black had been able to use this plant fae back then. Under the insect tide, it had defended Millstone Town. It had even refreshed many spirit chi professionals' definition of phase. It turned out that a fae or source-type life form had been nurtured. It could be nurtured to such an extent. Poison Beauty had now become a complete Black bragging. Since the yellow sand castle rose into the sky, she had been bragging about Black nonstop. After Lu Shuang realized that Black's identity must be extraordinary, when bragging about Black, she had to be more cautious than before. He no longer put Black and himself in the same category. Previously, Lu Shuang had lost to Black. Lu Shuang had never understood how she had lost. Many bullet comments asked if Lu Shuang was convinced. Lu Shuang had never publicly expressed that she was convinced of Black's strength. Lu Shuang believed that Black mainly won in the mystery of the Fae. As a B-rank spirit chi professional, Black did not have a myth breed Fae. Lu Shuang's and Black's Faes were Diamond X/Fantasy V. If she could know what Black's cat species Fae's abilities and exclusive skills were, she could avoid that cat species Fae's specialty. It might not necessarily not have the strength to fight with Black. But now Lu Shuang had seen Black. Apart from that 8-tailed spirit cat, the other 2 Faes. Lu Shuang didn't know if Black had displayed all of its strength for these 2 Faes. But even if it was displayed now, no matter which one it was, Lu Shuang knew that she was not a match. Lu Shuang could not help but sigh in the live streaming room. I am completely convinced by Black. I feel that with Black's strength, he should not lose to those Majesty's disciples. Lu Shuang was a very careful person in the live streaming room. He never spoke carelessly. Yet he said something like that. It was because that was what Lu Shuang really thought. Her Majesty's disciple had always been the same as Her Majesty. It was a legendary existence. There were always a few anonymous names on the Sanctuary Division rankings. The Stairway winning streak leaderboard was the same. Most of these anonymous people were the young geniuses of the top forces. Or perhaps, the legendary disciple of His Holiness. Lin Yuan's performance in the Radiance 100 sequence test was quite impressive. Lu Shuang said this from the bottom of her heart. Upon hearing Lu Shuang's words, the live stream instantly boiled over. Chung, Shuangzi finally has someone he respects. Black is indeed powerful. Just based on the 2 Faes that he displayed, I can't think of any weaknesses that he has. However, it shouldn't be appropriate to compare Black with His Holiness disciple, right? Magic Jiazai. I don't think it's inappropriate. We can't see the strength of Black's 2 Faes through the star web. But look at those posts. They all say that Black's sand elemental life form is Diamond X/Fantasy V. Even the top geniuses are only at this level. Could His Holiness disciple be able to break through to A-rank spirit chi professional at the same age as Black and have a myth breed Fae? Inexhaustible loneliness. No matter what, Black is my fan for life. Unless those His Holiness disciple come out and fight with Black, Otherwise, in my place, black is the strongest. Lemon Chuxia. Do you still remember the bet between His Holiness and the Freedom Federation a month ago? I have a feeling that black might become the next Radiance envoys. There is a referendum in the Radiance envoys voting. Although the referendum only accounts for 10% of the total points, I must vote for black. Maple Dance. Hey, you can't not want to see black's blue bird, eight-tailed spirit cat, bee, and healing type Fae just because he used this sand elemental life form and that plant source type life form. The star web was full of posts discussing the Sea of Sand and the Sea of Flowers. Black's official fan group was led by the group owner Lu Lang. They entered the carnival in advance. Lin Yuan and Gao Feng didn't know any of this. Gao Feng looked at the 8 long ribbons of the Sea of Flowers, standing proudly in the alien beast tide with a face of shock. The ferocity of the Sea of Flowers even made the alien beast tide. They even faintly felt fear. Gao Feng found that the dimensional life forms in the alien beast tide were crazily squeezing into the area between the 2 long ribbons of the Sea of Flowers. I didn't want to be picked by the vines in the Sea of Flowers and become fertilizer. Lin Yuan had used his own strength. He had faced all the Radiance 100 sequence candidates and the assessment content. For a moment, Gao Feng was so shocked that he couldn't even speak. As a member of the younger generation of a top faction, Gao Feng was used to big storms and waves. But everyone present, if it wasn't for Lin Yuan, if it was anyone else, even if it was Zhong Zhe, Gu Lang, and He, no one could do what Lin Yuan did in front of him. But when he thought that the one who created this Sea of Flowers was a 6-winged fairy that broke the common sense of fairy source-type life forms, Gao Feng felt relieved. On Lin Yuan's side, he was curiously communicating with Red Thorn. Red Thorn, I remember that you can only specialize 2 types of plants, right? In Lin Yuan's impression, Red Thorn used spores. The child ramets that it could specialize were only the spore cavity and the carnivorous vines. At most, it could only specialize in the water. It could also specialize in red gill-shaped flowers that could fight in the water. But now, the child ramets that Red Thorn specialized through the pink spores. It was a type that Lin Yuan didn't know at all. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's question, Red Thorn said matter-of-factly, Lin Yuan, other than the digestive cavity that I specialized just now, which is filled with digestive fluid, I can also specialize a new type of child ramets. The new child ramets can eat up all these alien beast tides. Lin Yuan, do you want Red Thorn to show you? Red Thorn was very happy to receive Lin Yuan's praise just now. Right now, Red Thorn couldn't wait to receive more praise from Lin Yuan. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan hurriedly interrupted Red Thorn and said, Red Thorn, this is enough for now. You don't have to show the new child ramets first. While speaking, Lin Yuan couldn't help but hold his forehead with his hand. If Lin Yuan knew in advance that Red Thorn could specialize 2 new types of child ramets, the digestive cavity that this child ramet specialized would be the one before Red Thorn. It had never displayed its strength before. Lin Yuan would definitely let Red Thorn be a trump card and hide it. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.